Welcome to the Renegade Party Podcast, and in today's episode, I got my boy Seraj, all the way from California, and he should be stopping by any moment now.
What up?
What a play, boy!
Good to see you, my brother. You look steezy, man. Digging that kimono, dude. Damn.
Like swag.
Yeah. And that house reminds me of the Airbnb, bro. Like, that's how you're living in right now.
Yes, sir.
How goes things?
How you doing, pit boy?
Oh, I'm doing well, a lot going on. Just thinking about how to get back to Asia next, when I can do that, and when I can have you as a tour guide and show me all the cool places you've been seeing in Japan since we've left.
Oh man, there's so many new places, bro.
Yeah.
So many new places. Like, I think like every other week I discover something new.
Damn.
You know, either I go to a different prefecture or I go to somewhere I already know, but explore a totally different outlook than like what I saw before. So it's crazy, man.
Oh, cheers, by the way. I got a nice Jazz Sapporo for the occasion.
Nice.
What time is it over there?
It is 4 a.m.
Oh, damn. Well, big ups. Thanks for being willing to work on my time zone.
Huh?
I said big ups. Thanks for being willing to work on my time zone. It's only like 12:40 p.m. So
yeah. Normally I'll get up at 4, but because today is like Sunday, I was like, when you called, I was like, oh shit, yeah. I got all right, because I already had everything set up.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up at 4, set everything up, then I went to lay back down, and I'm like, the sleep was getting good. Then you called, I'm like, oh shit,
yeah. I could hear. I could hear you were sleeping. I felt so bad, dude. I was just like, oh fuck, like I just woke homeboy up.
Nah, I'm always up. Normally I'm always up. So what's going on in your world, Playboy?
The most exciting thing these days are coming up is that we got my art crew party collective, whatever you want to call it. We have our next big event in about a week from today. So I guess today's July 1st in the States, and the party's on July 8th. We scouted out the warehouse that we're throwing it in about 2 weeks ago. For those that don't know and are listening, I am a co-owner of a event promotion crew called Noise Revolt, and its sub-brand Momentive, which focuses more on drum and bass events. The party we have coming up July 8th is going to be a Momentive party, and we are co-throwing it with a local dubstep promotion, a group called B-Sides. This is all based in Los Angeles. We booked 2 headliners from the UK, one for each of us. One is Skeptical, who does like roller style DMB. And then the B-Sides booked Komodo, who is like a deep dubstep kind of dude. He signed to Deep Medi. Been a big fan of his for a long time. Very excited for this. The warehouse comfortably fits about 2,000 people. Our last big event we threw, our last main event, we threw one event in between, which is like kind of like a microcosm fundraiser, a very small event compared to what we normally do. It was like 150 person capacity. But this is going to be one of our normal style events. And the last one we threw, we got Monty, who's an amazing drum and bass producer, and it was his debut debut California show, and we got about 1,000 people there.
Nice.
Went till 6 a.m. Definitely one of the funnest parties I've ever been to, let alone thrown. So for those that live around the SoCal area, look up momentive.dmb on Instagram, and you'll be tapped into our underground party line. And as we do our parties, they are after hours focused. They go till, I say, till the last hippie leaves, which is usually around 6 a.m. But even then, the hippies never really want to leave. We actually have to give them the boot. I usually just start playing metal at the end when it's time for them to leave. I'll just like start cranking out metal and like watch them scatter.
Really?
Yeah.
So the negative song for drum and bass is metal.
Yeah. No, drum and bass heads love metal. But the thing is, you know, when you're whooped out at 6 a.m., the last thing you want to hear is some like intense Slipknot or Pantera or something. You know, it's just like they're, you know, they want something a little more gentle at that time. So it's a good way to kindly tell people to fuck off.
Nice. So hey, explain your art collective. What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, okay. So we started I'd say probably close to 8 years ago. And the original brand, the main brand, is called Noise Revolt. And we started it was me and my buddies, and we were influenced by, we went to like, you know, we started going to festivals when we were, you know, I'm about 32 right now. We started going to festivals when we were about 16-ish. And let's see. So we started going to like when we were about 16, and, you know, back in the day, we're all LA based. So back in the day, you know, EDC used to be thrown in Los Angeles and go till like 5 or 6 a.m. And it was
EDC.
They still do EDC. It just moved to Vegas, so it's not in LA, and it's a 3-day thing. So when I first started going, I was like 16 or 17, and it was a one-night thing. Tickets were $20 as opposed to now where they're like $500. So yeah, exactly. It was $20. It was 20 minutes from my house, and it kind of just felt like a giant dance party for, you know, all the residents of LA. You know, we had this unique feeling and vibe that you'll never really get there again, which was you can actually split from your friends and then run into more friends within 5 or 10 minutes. And you'd never, like, nowadays, if you lose your friends at these festivals, they're gone. Like, good luck. You have to enjoy yourself without them. There's no cell phone connection and all that. But back in the day, you know, we could easily find like a meeting spot and like, hey, if you split or want to meet up with more people, just hang out here. And we'd always run into more people there. There was never really any being lost except, you know, on the actual dance floor and into the music. But yeah, so we're, you know, we'd start with, you know, the couple Insomniac events like EDC, but then we went to like more hippie burner oriented ones such as Lightning in a Bottle. And it was over there, I'd say LIB specifically, that most of us got inspired to start really doing our own thing. And how that happened is like we'd see like, you know, there'd be like small little after hours stages or like maybe not even stages, just like special booths, lounges that really had their own kind of like beautiful vibe that people just chilled out in. And you could tell that they were hired to bring them, you know? And we thought like, hey, you know, like we could just build something small and, you know, just create our own little vibes. And we don't even have to get paid to do it. What if we just started doing this at festivals in the campgrounds, start doing a good job, and then, you know, people will start paying attention to us. So we started doing that. And, you know, it was like a multi-pronged kind of strategy where you do that at festivals, but, you know, back home, we actually wanted to start like, you know, developing a following and stuff. So we didn't have to just wait till festivals. So you start low key. My friends had a decent relationship with a bar in Orange County area. And what they ended up doing is like they struck a deal or with them. It's like, hey, could we take over the bar and just like, you know, and just play some music there and, you know, just invite our friends and charge tickets or whatever. And they made an agreement like, yeah, if you get this number of people, you can start doing it like bi-weekly or bi-monthly. And I remember the first one, we pulled that exact number of people. Nice. So we just started, you know, doing bi-weekly, bi-monthly kind of thing, built a kind of local following. You know, back in that day, it was underground music places to listen to underground music like always existed, but you know, like for things like, you know, let's say in LA 15 years or, you know, 10 years ago, like drum and bass music wasn't that big. There's places like Respect, which have been doing it for like 24 years, and that was usually the one place you'd go, that or an Insomniac rave. But you know, we just started like playing music that we wouldn't hear at any club or any like, you know, we specifically avoided top 40s venues. We kind of specifically avoided dubstep because that's when the dubstep explosion was happening, and the whole genre was oversaturated with just really shitty dubstep. So I was just like, okay, let's just stay away from that. We'll stick to house, techno, and drum and bass. And you just like play into these niches, and we kind of just like built this following in the OC area. And
Orange County, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we did that for long enough to a point where an opportunity came up to rent out, like, or not purchase, but like lease out a warehouse space in downtown LA. And that's when things started getting really crazy. We essentially started to yeah, just throw shows at our own warehouse space where we were in complete control.
So and you guys own the warehouse space?
Yeah, we were leasing it. It's like, yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So it wasn't like us owning it, but we had like a 4 or 5 year lease on it. So we kind of made it like this giant arts community warehouse where, you know, painters, sound engineers, producers / DJs, laser technicians and lighting technicians could all just kind of network, hang out, and all this. And through doing that, you meet all these people in the industry. By, you know, just being genuine, real, you gain the respect of the people in your community. And you know, and then plus, like, you know, when we're not throwing a party every month, we'd probably do our own party like every other month, once every 3 months. But in that time, we'd rent it out to other people in the promoter community that wanted to throw their own parties.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's how you network. And we did this for long enough where we have built a really good following for what we do. People always look forward to coming to our parties. We always knocked it out of the ballpark. Something I'm specifically very, very proud and happy about in the 6 or 7 years of doing this. We've never had a fight at any of our parties.
Nice.
And, right? We've never had a fight at any of our parties, and we've never had an overdose. Nice. And mind you, these are after hours parties. They go till 6. People, you know, have freedom to do God knows what. There's no judgment. But it really kind of reflected the community that we attract and the energy we bring to the table. And that was, you know, just by doing that kind of stuff, different warehouses were more willing to work with us. And, you know, our last party, the big one I was talking about where we got Monty, had 1,000 people. The warehouse owner said we were the best party crew he's ever worked with, the most professional. And we had this graffiti artist / mural painter. And it's fantastic. I highly recommend looking it up. His name's Blacklight King. He does these amazing blacklight murals over the course of a night at these different parties. And we work with him a lot. And we had him do a wall mural at this party, just, you know, during the middle of the party. He was just spraying stuff up and made this beautiful mural. And the warehouse owner came up to us at the day later, and he was just like, you guys are the most professional. That was amazing. And to put the icing on the cake, he's like, I've always wanted a mural at my spot from Blacklight King, and you guys made it happen. So thank you so much. I'd love to work with you guys more. Yeah. So, you know, we just, the important thing to know is that, like, it could be intimidating for a newcomer into the thing. Like, how do I go from where I'm at right now, not doing anything, to throwing like big ass warehouse parties? And it's actually like, if you know, follow a system and stick to it, it can be done. I'm not going to say it's easy, because developing a following takes a while. And most importantly, finding a reliable team is really key to it, you know, where you can count on these different people to do different things. And, you know, in this world that we're in, different people will have so many different issues and dramas going on. You know, a primary example is like a drug addiction or something, and they'll have their downfalls and, you know, their points of unreliability. And it's really just a matter of knowing when to stick by people, knowing when to give people the boot, but really just support the people that have always supported you. And most of the time they come out the other side a little better. Sometimes they'll come out just as good, but if you know, sometimes they don't, but you know, you just gotta,
it's a flip of the coin.
Yeah, it's a flip of the coin. And but you know, just be willing to support people and know when they you need to distance yourself from people, you know. But yeah, that's the history of our collective in a nutshell. My business, the party side of my business in a nutshell. And you know, it's made pretty much all my dreams come true. You know, we've gotten so many opportunities. We've been asked to build stages on tour across the country. We've built stages at a stage at Oregon Eclipse, which was this beautiful total solar eclipse festival in Oregon. One of the craziest experiences of my life, that festival. And speaking of which, they just announced Texas Eclipse soon. So they're going to do another eclipse festival in Texas for the solar eclipse in April. Highly recommend going to that
next year, right?
Yeah, 2024. So maybe you can come by the US and we could party there, dude. Would love to show you what we could do out there, man.
Hell yeah. I need to go out to some more parties, man.
Well, there's plenty of bangers out in Japan, you know.
There are. I just don't go to anything.
There's this one I've heard a lot about called Labyrinth in Japan. I'm going to look it up right now. 1 second. Yeah, so there's Labyrinth, and then I think Texas Eclipse is actually working with a Japanese promoting company. So what they did for Oregon Eclipse is they got different promoters from around the world to all come together in Oregon to do this giant, amazing party. And I think so they are working with, from Japan, it's called Rebirth Japan. And I think they do pretty big techno parties in Japan. And then there's let me see, Labyrinth Japan. So I think Labyrinth does techno and psytrance parties. And I've seen yeah. So they actually have an event coming up. I think I'm looking this up on my phone right now. Maybe they don't. Yeah, it doesn't look like they have any specific events coming up, but I remember seeing a video from Labyrinth and they had, you know, this giant techno stage set up in front of a really cool pagoda. So
I know there's events happening, because I know the other day I saw they're having what's it called next month? Summer
that sounds cool.
Summer Splash or something like that next month.
Where's that going to be at?
Chiba.
Oh, cool.
I'll be in Chiba, I believe.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So they have some bangers out here. I just haven't been going to anything, you know. I need the right people to like encourage me to get out there, you know.
Feel you.
So, well, yeah, man.
What's been going on with you? Anything new? Anything cool besides, you know, seeing some other parts of Japan?
What's going on in my world? A lot of crazy spiritual stuff, you know.
Let's get into it, yeah.
Oh, man. So I think the last time we talked is when I went to
Kyushu.
That was a trip. That one was, whoa.
Yeah, you're telling me a little bit about that. That it really sounded amazing. I actually like talked to there's like a Japanese burger place about a block and a half from my spot in Ojai where I live. And yeah, I was talking to the owner about Kyushu, and he was telling me like it's magnificent, but you know, I won't really get it from just hearing about it. It's something you kind of have to see.
You have to go there. Like, that one was amazing. I think maybe because of the stories they were explaining to me before we got like to some places. because the place is rich with story. There's Kagoshima, where they have Sakurajima, like an active volcano,
Oh, whoa.
you know. And you're hearing all these horror stories of like how the volcano, erupted. And you know how big the Torii gates are?
Yeah.
The Torii gate is literally buried underground. So you can, as you're walking on the top of the
That's
Torii
wild. So
gate.
it's way bigger than you think it is.
So you're like, so volcano ashes, like volcano came, and they're like, it's not even the lava, just the ash, buried the whole Torii gate. So literally, we're walking on the top, like close to the top of the Torii gate. And when you think about it, that means there is about like 20 feet of just ash. And then you get to the place and you're like, oh man, I hope this shit doesn't explode. And they're like, oh yeah, it's still active, but it was fucking up last week. I'm like,
Oh my God.
week? God damn, this not even like 2 years ago or 3, like last week. So I was like, nah, man, this shit is crazy.
Suppose it'd be a good place to go though, like
Is
for your final huzzah if a volcano did go off.
And there's like a little, like a shelter where they're supposed to stay, and I'm like, man, you have to run all the way and get to the shelter. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Then you hear like all like their temples. For me, it was their temples. They have some of the most unique located temples I've seen. They had like 2 of them were on their own island.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you walk to a long ass bridge, and there's like nothing on the side, just like road going to this temple on an island. That's on an island by itself. There was another one that was inside a cave under a mountain, inside the crevice. And a lot of the gods that they talk about they are old, ancient, the creation of the world, the creation. So it's like they're ancient gods.
Do you think they predate I guess what would be called Shinto? Because I know like when we were at the Fushimi Inari shrine, there's I guess statues written in languages, Japanese dialects that are no longer spoken. And so I know Shinto as like an, I guess, quote unquote, organized spiritual system. I don't even know if you'd call it a religion. Do you think these gods predate that?
Yes. Wow. Yes. This is like their origin story. So the origin of Shintoism, because Shintoism, the best way I can describe Shintoism is a traditional worship that just worships multiple gods. They also have their own, form of creation. I'm not really too good in the story, but it's like Amaterasu and her brothers. Then she got stuck in a cave.
And Amaterasu's like the
god of the sun.
The god of the sun. I remember playing a video game called Okami, and you play as
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Okami in Japanese actually translates to werewolf or wolf.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And her brothers Susano. So like most of the naming and stuff, you might familiarize it with the stuff used in Naruto.
Yeah, for sure.
So I always get like, oh, okay, I know that from Naruto, so tell me more, and I get interested, and they're like, oh yeah, she came, and there was like a rock, like in the shape of a boob, and I'm like, haha, that's a rock in the shape of a boob, and they're like, yeah, that has been there since like the beginning of time, and basically it starts dripping from the nipple. So the history goes that one of the gods cut off her nipples and placed it in that cave for humanity to be created.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
You know,
usually when I want to create things in my garden, I find someone's nipple to chop off and throw it in the garden.
so you hear all these like deep stories, and you have the visuals to match. You know,
Yeah.
you start feeling some kind of way. You know, and like 2 weeks ago, yeah, 2 weeks ago we went to Shizuoka to go see my girl's family's ancestral burial spot where their ancestors.
Shizuoka, give me a rough demographic. North Japan, South Central.
Shizuoka is where Mount Fuji is.
Oh, okay, for sure. So relatively near Tokyo.
Yeah, so like 2 hours away from Tokyo, an hour away
Okay.
from Tokyo. And we went there. We went to their family side. Their family has like a logo, you know, so like their own family crest and everything. So we went to like their family place, saw all their relatives. And one of the parts that's kind of got me this recently is World War II. I didn't know the extent of the damage of. I've never really like had a explanation of how severe the damage was, but like one of Yui's great grand aunties, I believe, died in the war.
Wow.
And they explained like how Americans just was like bombing the whole place, like indiscriminately just bombing.
America bombing? That would never happen. America would never bomb a country.
Man, they destroyed, you know, they like destroyed. And like the history that I know, they're like, oh, you know, it wasn't that bad, you know.
Oh, it was.
But when you hear them telling you and like showing you scale, you know, you're like, wow, this place is beautiful. This place is nice. And they're like, yeah, this place used to have houses and everything, and it got blown up. And you're like, this whole place? And then you like the clarity now like hits you. You're like, you look on the other, like on the other side, you see houses and like life, and like this whole span of land is just empty and deserted.
That's insane, man. That's
You
so
know?
unfortunate. I was reading, I showed you, but like I've been trying to read this book on Shinto just to learn more about it. And it's so far, it's a good read. It's a little confusing because I have to like really familiar myself with Japanese vernacular and language to like understand these terms. But the book starts off with letting you know that Shinto now is pretty much different than there's a pre-World War II Shinto and a post-World War II Shinto. So you really have to think the extent of the damage that was done where it could change a whole quote unquote religion or spirituality. That's how bad that war really affected Japan. It legitimately changed the whole dynamic of their indigenous spirituality out there, which honestly to me is like heartbreaking, because what I've seen from surviving Shinto buildings and old temples and stuff, they are, I mean, bar none, they're the most beautiful temples I've ever seen in my life, you know. And I've been to India, Thailand, obviously Japan. I've seen a bunch of Egypt, and you know, like to really know that, damn, like if this is what's left, I can only imagine like what was there in the pre-World War II. Yeah, exactly, you know. So when I read that, my, you know, like heart felt really heavy for a minute, and still kind of does, just like kind of reminiscing like of what could have been, you know, in a sense. But you know, there's also yin to the yang, you know. Supposedly pre-World War II Japanese were absolutely savage, you know. Like,
yeah,
you hear some horror stories throughout Asia, you know, especially if you go to other Asian countries.
Yeah, they they defeated everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they were a terror to everybody. But like, I was talking to one of my friends, and I was explaining like that ideology of how Japan, Japan didn't take shit from nobody. They went across the border, and he looked at it as we were defending ourselves. You know, and the way he explained it was, back then it wasn't like now where everybody is peace and love.
Hmm.
Back then it was like, what am I gonna do for my family? What am I gonna do for my people? There was no friends and borders. Shit. Your
Yeah,
land
for
looks
sure.
fertile. Your land has some good. You got pineapples in this bitch? Fuck yeah, I'm coming over. So it was different times.
Yeah.
And it's funny for me because it's like sometimes I get like recently it's been like, the best way I can describe it is portals.
Hmm.
I go into portals now and then, and I see like glimpses of a world that used to exist or exists in a different timeline, you know?
Yeah.
And I get that, like, I see it, I feel it, I look at, and it's weird because there is a lot of similarities with our current world. And there's so many things that is just like you cannot even fathom, because like education has been a lie. Information that you know is a lie. Everything is a lie. So you're just like blank in this blank canvas of a world that looks like your world, but it is totally different.
Yeah, yeah, like in states of, I guess, when you go to these sites and you do your best to enter states of like deep meditation or in a deep psychedelic state, you can really kind of grasp like that kind of angle you're talking about, where you can really feel like you are in some sort of alternate reality. And it could be as easily as you take one step and you're in it, and it feels like a completely different place. And then you take one step backwards and you're just back to where you were before, So it kind of, I guess, highlights that idea of, portals existing, or it is possible to, I guess, slip into, for lack of better words, alternate dimensions. It kind of reminds me of Full Metal Alchemist, but not Brotherhood, the cartoon that wasn't as good. Yeah. Okay. So towards the end, he kind of, Edwin actually slips into one of those. He goes through the gate and slips into a world that resembles the world he's in, but it's not that, And I think both me and you have kind of experienced that to different extents. But a thought that popped into my head that I've been toying around a lot, and we kind of touched on how a whole culture was redirected and potentially erased via the bombings of World War II. I kind of had this hunch about the Vietnam War, right? And it's an idea I kind of want to explore. If there's anyone researching that knows Vietnam and Southeast Asia history a little better than me, please, feel free to type in the comments and let us know. Feel free to share some information. But I kind of have a hunch that part of the Vietnam War, obviously it's not about what we were told, stopping, it wasn't for the Vietnamese people's good or any of that. But there's an interesting part of it called the Secret Wars, where they were bombing Cambodia, Laos, and the neighboring countries of Vietnam in secret to a huge extent. And part of me thinks that was about erasing their culture, their indigenous culture, and their temples before, you know, got massively traveled to. It touches into the like Tartarian conspiracy a little. If you guys don't know about that, it's kind of the idea that there was an old world that used a different kind of technology that kind of existed not too long ago, and all of history is a well curated story by very powerful people, and it's not really accurate to what our actual history was. And it touches into like free energy conspiracies about how a lot of ancient temples, you'll notice like in Japanese pagodas, they'll have these giant spires at the top of the pagodas that have like these like metal metal rods at the top with ground lines and all this stuff. And you're like, what were they doing? And it's like, it's the idea that a lot of these ancient structures had a functional purpose beyond like, oh, this is a nice place to hang out. Oh, this looks beautiful. Like they were actually potentially like generating free energy from the atmosphere, you know, using these rods at the top to generate energy in a different way. And you'll notice in like old Gothic cathedrals, they all have these like metal spires, and they all mysteriously catch on fire. The most recent example is the Notre Dame fire, which is this old, beautiful cathedral that seemed out of place for the time it was supposedly built. And what happens there? There's a giant fire. They remove a spire from it. They remove like some sort of the functioning centerpiece of this temple, this structure, this church. And then they tell you, oh yeah, it was just a church where people went to worship, you know, when in reality, the architecture, the fractal layout of it all was all actually done to serve a greater purpose for the community around it. So I was thinking maybe like a part of the secret wars was to like bomb out a lot of these, you know, for lack of better words, Tartarian structures. And, you know, you'll know that they would like for fact, they would bomb a lot of these temples because supposedly that's where the enemy was hiding, you know? So they would just completely decimate it. And there's no way of really me being able to
retrace
those steps and quote unquote prove it, because they didn't, you know, a lot of these indigenous tribes didn't have photograph technology back then. So you can't see what kind of temples existed in these places deep in the jungle. But, you know, if you're an American flying your plane around and you just see a temple located, you're like, hey, yo, Nixon, this is the spot we're going to hit next. And you could even see like in Apocalypse Now, one of the greatest movies of all time. Actually, Metal Gear Solid. It's not Mel Gibson. It's Francis Ford Coppola, I believe, directed it. And it
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now. Yeah, you're talking about Apocalypto. Yeah. I love Apocalypto. Yeah. Apocalypto is one of my favorite movies. But Apocalypse Now with Charlie Sheen and Marlon Brando. Marlon, and for those that are big fans of Metal Gear like me, best work of art ever. Metal Gear Solid 3 is kind of hugely influenced by Apocalypse Now. But Marlon Brando's character, he ends up raising his quote unquote, like, you know, army of rebels or whatever in one of the temples. So there is this idea that these temples were actively invaded, actively bombed. So I can only imagine what kind of crazy structures existed deep in the jungles of Vietnam, deep in the jungles of Laos, deep in the jungles of Cambodia, that were just decimated. And if you go to Cambodia, you can still see Angkor Wat, which defies everything we know about history and the timeline and the accepted timeline and all of that. So like, you know, if you go to Angkor Wat, I think it's the biggest official temple of all time. And, you know, they'll tell you it was built not too long ago by, you know, a Buddhist emperor, or the guy was a Hindu, and then he converted to, his son converted to Buddhism and all this. But then if you go to the actual temple, you'll notice all the Buddhist statues and all the Buddhist statues and idols are built significantly shittier than the temple around it, you know? So it shows like there's definitely some sort, like these things were placed there by later dates. And, you know, if you go to Egypt, a lot of the structures used to be, at least now people are starting to see through that. They used to be accredited to Ramses II. And it's only because, like, so there's these things in Egypt called cartouches, and they're kind of like old school dog tags that they would put on walls saying like Emperor blah, blah, blah was here. And Egyptologists as John Anthony West called quackademics, would see these cartouches and be like, oh, it has this guy's name on it. He's the one that built it. Which is literally the equivalent to me going up to the Eiffel Tower, spray painting my name on it, and then 1,000 years later, someone goes, "Oh, Seraj built this," and it's just like, really, dude? Like, and right, and you'll find these cartouches are shittily chiseled on, like you'll see like it just so crappily written on, and then it's on this structure that's magnificently put together. So you're saying like you could build these like impossible structures, you know, with seamlessly, but you can't write your name properly, like, you know. And these are the people that are telling us the story of our past. So yeah, you know, it's a giant mystery, and I think like a huge part of that we all owe to ourselves, a huge part of the life experience is going to these places that the ancestors built and seeing for yourself that how much more magnificent they are than what you can perceive from a YouTube video, even perceive from a book. You know, it's I have, you know, some friends that are, you know, spiritually bankrupt, so to say, like, you know, atheists, like, you know, like I respect pretty much every religious things, but like if you're an atheist, it's kind of just like, dude, like you, as Sam Hyde said, you're so arrogant that you think you understand the whole universe around you with your head that's the size of a fucking watermelon, you know? It doesn't work. You have to humble yourself and kind of know that there's way more going on than you understand, whether it's different levels of reality and all this. And it's one thing, these people, like, you know, I'll tell them about the like, you know, like how proper spiritual development can lead to things like building the pyramids. And they'll be like, this is the one, you only get this response from atheists, but I'll talk about the pyramids and they'll be like, so what, bro? They're just triangles. And, you know, like, we got iPhones now. And like, it just blows my mind. I'm like, if you wanted to use that argument, iPhones are just squares, bro. Like, like, what does that even mean, you know? And the funniest thing is they'll be like, the pyramids are just triangles, or just, but they're not. And most people don't even know that they have 8 sides. So I forgot the exact name.
It's the geometric name is.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Is it the A pyramid? Still called a pyramid because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 sides.
Yeah, no. So actually, so there's like the pyramid itself. They go out and then concave a little and then go out. That's why they actually have 8 faces externally.
Say that again.
So like in a pyramid, it'll go like that and then, you know, connect. So it's like three faces. But they actually, so the Egyptian pyramids actually have 8 sides. So it'll go out a little, then concave in, and then go back out. So it's more like resembling a star. Not many people know this, but it has more than the faces that people see. It's more than, let me look up this term right really quickly so I don't sound like a complete bumbling idiot. Pyramids, Egypt, 8 sides. Yeah, so you know, I looked this up on Summarizer, just searched pyramids on Brave. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the only 8-sided pyramid in Egypt due to its concavity of the core that makes its 4 sides hollowed in or indented along the central lines. So it's an 8-sided thing. So not many people know this. So that infinitely increases the complexity of the geometry that was used to build it. So it's right. Not many people know this. And
I didn't know this. Shit.
Right? So people think even then, just a normal sided pyramid, the geometry that went into building that is insanely complex. But now knowing that it's 8-sided, actually, like, that makes it infinitely more complex and harder to build.
You know, there's 2 things that's running through my mind right now. One is an anime I'm reading. It's called Dan.
Damn.
Yeah, and It's about science. It started off with like science versus magic kind of topic. It's now escalating beyond that, kind of. And right now, it's aliens versus the main characters. But how the aliens transport themselves from place to place is they use pyramids.
Yeah, little Stargate steez going.
Yeah, and one of the cool things is when they were like explaining like, oh, the technology used in pyramids, blase blase. The closest one, the one that's known is in Egypt. But one of the characters says they have the burial mounds. So they have monolithic structures like pyramids, builders' tombs also in Japan.
Yeah.
And the other day, we got to see one of those mounds. Like I got to actually see it.
Wait, isn't the Osaka Castle? It's built. It's a megalithic structure that it's built on top of, like kind of like what you'd see in Peru. Like it's built on these giant stones that you can't really move with whatever horses. Yeah.
The castle one is that's another flex on its own, because
yeah,
Kumamoto Castle has like some history because they built it in such a way that if they went to war and they couldn't get out, there's food hidden. Like the place is a map in a map in a map. It's really trippy. But I went to this mound, right? And it has an interesting design. Okay, it's 4 corners with a dome. And I was asking you to give me some context on like what's this about. This predates Shintoism.
Ooh.
This is still the guy that they buried there is a Chinese blase from the olden days. And this part is the part that actually got me interested because of you. They depicted the world. Are you ready for this one?
I'm listening.
As 4 corners and a dome. I have to send you.
Bro, that's what I've been saying. That's what I'm saying. It's not just them. The Tibetans, the Chinese, the Navajo, the Egyptians, dude, all the ancients. This is what like we could have went into a couple different subjects right here, but like since we're here, might as well get into it. Going back to visiting these ancient temples and seeing just how magnificent they were and how they have what we'd call like physics defying, current technology defying ways of building these things. It's really a fascinating thing because it can really change your whole worldview. So a lot of what these ancient ancient researchers, you know, such as Graham Hancock or Randall Carlson, they'll swear by how advanced these people were, right? And how they knew everything about the stars and how they knew everything about this. But they live with this huge layer of cognitive dissonance where they'll be like, oh, they knew everything about nature. They knew everything about this. But the whole map of reality they have is completely wrong because they didn't propose a spinning globe that does this and that. So, but they'll never acknowledge what they actually believe. They'll talk around it, you know? And the reality of it is they all believed, to my understanding, that we're on a flat stationary plane, you know, a level plane, whatever you want to call it flat earth, call it whatever you want, a realm. They all believe that. And these people could track the stars meticulously. That's why the pyramids are geometrically and perfectly aligned, I do believe, to Orion's belt or the Sirius star system and all that. And you'll find most of these ancient structures are aligned to these amazing star systems perfectly. So you're saying they could build these structures, they could map out the stars, they could build these structures in accordance to the stars. Oh, but they were missing the whole spinning and hurling and flying through space at 5 different angles thing. Like, come on, let's get real. If we really want to understand these things, we kind of have to understand where they were coming from, what they believed we were on. And if it comes down to it, I trust my ancestors. I trust the ancestors way more than I trust NASA, dog. People will be like, yo, like, you'll have these people that know the government lies about everything, right? But then they'll be like, oh, but they're telling the truth about where we are. That's the one thing where they're telling the truth about. Like, it boggles my mind. It honestly boggles my mind. You know, it boggles my mind that people still think we went to the moon in the 70s, right? So you're saying the president that started the global war on drugs, the president that was bombing Southeast Asia in secret, the president that literally got booted from the White House for lying was the one that took us to the moon. He just wasn't lying about that one thing. And he took us 4 times and we haven't been able to go back since the 70s. Right? We realize our iPhones have more computing power than they had than NASA had accessible from their whole team. Their budget, NASA's budget to going to the moon was smaller than a month of what we give them now, and they can't go back. Like, like strip away the cognitive dissonance, my friends. Like, just know, like I always say, just trust your senses, go back to default, and think about how you would perceive the world if you weren't told what it is. If you weren't told that we're in a spinning ball that is not only spinning, it's on a wobble, and it's following the sun, and it's twirling around the sun, and the sun's following its own axes. Well, how come the stars return to the same spot every year? If that was the case, the stars would all be spiraling out in different directions. They would never be the same every year. Like the stars come right back around the next year to exactly where they were.
But
so it's
they have an explanation for that. You know, they have a reason why. There's always a reason.
Yeah, there's always a reason, but it's never a reason you can test for yourself. It's never a reason. You have to take their word for it. You have to.
I think because right now, since you've blown my mind with the 8 sides of a pyramid, you know, I went to the art museum the other day, and I never did get arts. I never did like fully integrate myself with arts. But I went to this museum and I loved the guy's painting, you know. And he paints this psychedelic, you know, mind fuck. It's a mind fuck.
What do you know the name of the artist?
Utake Kuneyoshi.
Okay.
I bought like a bunch of his shit because I was such a fan. And one of the things I got from his pictures is my concept of how the world looks. I don't know if I'll be able to show you. Can you see it? No, it won't come out. Right. It's in my own perception, the world is a pyramid. Okay. And I was drawing, you know, my pyramid. So I started off with a triangle. And the way I imagined it is we finally get off Earth. And then you look to your left-hand side or the other side of the Earth, and you go into that other triangle. And it's like present, future, and past. You know, but now that it has 8 sides, that now, you know, makes it even more fun, you know. But
yeah, dude,
that's pyramid. That's how the Earth is, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt that it's spinning, you know. And if it's spinning, you now have that illusion of the 8 sides, right? And if it spins well enough, you get kind of like a dome. This is going to be a pyramid, but it's going to be like a dome-like structure. But I like to believe in like the negative space, the chaos that exists.
Yeah.
So you only focus on the top, you know, you're ignoring everything else, you know. perspective wise. You're only looking forward, so you're ignoring everything else.
Yeah.
So my like I still don't get why people get so butthurt. Either or, like flat earth or round earth. Like I don't understand why people get butthurt when they cannot perceive what it is. Like
absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing though. It's like I've found in my experience, that once you accept that you've been lied to about the shape of things or where we are in this galaxy universe, in this reality, once you accept that, the people that have accepted that are much more open to new ideas. Like if you tell someone that you're quote unquote a flat earther to someone that's never heard that and can't, you'll get mocked and you'll get ridiculed and you'll get this and you'll get that and you'll get so much shit, dude. YouTube has deemed talking about flat earth as harmful thought worth banning, you know? And it's just like, why? Just being curious and questioning things. So it's like, if you tell a flat earther, like, no, we definitely live on a globe, blah, 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 they might get butthurt about that. But if you tell them, no, I think we live on something else completely, and you know, just say what you said, for example, they'll be much more open to be like, yeah, okay, for sure. But if you tell a guy that swears by the science about these things, they'll instantly think you're a crazy goddamn loon, this, that, and it's just like, which real part of it, this leads to like why I got like so much respect for you, because when I like first started throwing these ideas out, you weren't judging. You're like, oh, okay, that's kind of fascinating. That's the thing. That's a key, how people receive these questions. I found like talking about flat earth is a great way to vet someone's character, because it shows their ability to at least listen to ideas without immediately like just mocking it. And if someone immediately mocks it, then it shows that where their head's at. Whereas someone just immediately, even if they think it's complete bullshit, if they just actually just are like curious. I myself, if I hear someone say some crazy ass shit, I'm just like, rad, dude, why do you think that? Like, you're probably an interesting person to talk to, you know? Right? What the hell have you seen, dude? Right? So like I totally understand where you're coming from, but as I said, in my experience, like the quote unquote flat earther community are a lot more open to new ideas, and they're a lot more willing to entertain new ideas without fully accepting it. And I think Aristotle said the mark of an educated mind is being able to entertain an idea without believing it. Yeah. So another subject I kind of been interested in talking about these days, and we touched on it briefly, was the idea of aliens, right? And we've been hearing more and more about aliens in the recent, past 2 years. And I've found it like a pretty interesting conversation, because back, if you asked me like 5 years ago, I was kind of way more into the idea of aliens. But, before I give my thoughts on recent years, I kind of want to hear what you're at about what you think they are, or what you think they are, and why you think the government's willing to talk about it now versus mocking it for the past 60 plus years. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Aliens. So I had my old idea. What is this? You know how as of now we had gone to space, or there's nothing, right? It's just emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
My idea of aliens were, what happens if human beings stay on Earth? Like, okay, for example, you know how they say the Earth is like some billion years old, so many billion years old, right? And we've had civilizations come and go. And I know there's a bunch of movies of us trying to go from Earth to another planet to make that planet our home, blah blah blah. But what happens when a civilization on Earth that no longer exists, that built the pyramids and built all these great structures? What? Imagine if they actually went to space. Like in their time frame, they were like a mega society, built their spaceships, left the Earths, got whatever it happened is the catastrophes, and they spend time just floating in the spaces of space. One of our things is we are adaptable. We can adapt, right? They start, because they've been there for so long, we adapted and became, 6 feet tall. But because they are still in space, they adapted and got bigger eyeballs, gray skin, because, no sun, so their skin became gray. And those aliens are basically human beings that just doing the same thing that we're like right now, and we're in the space race. Who is the first to get to space before all our natural resources gets extinguished, right? We've had this cycle many times, and like once we figure it out, that's like the end of our world. If you will get to go and like discover the blankness of space, all just to come back around, back to Earth. Because I feel like it's only us in this plane, so and that's the space kind of aliens, extra dimensional, extra reality. Those ones are on a totally different plane. And those ones, I get those ones from like the storybooks, the mangas, the mythology, all these things. Because like the first time I moved to Japan, the very first like week I moved here, right? Me and you was coming home and we see this thing, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's a cat. Then like we're moving the car, we're reversing. Damn, that's a fat cat, And we look, well, it's a raccoon. Okay. I'm like, oh shit. Take out the camera, try to record in the darkness. You see the eyes flashing and it runs away. It runs away. I run to like downstairs to like see if I can see it. It turns the corner and a man pops out. So, and the man is like looking at me, not looking like at the splashy that just happened on the floor. The guy's looking at me, and I started joking with you, and I'm like, that man is not a man. That is a fucking tanuki running around, pretending to be a human. And she goes and now says, oh, have you seen the Ghibli movie? Have you seen any Ghibli movie? I'm like, nah, I haven't seen any Ghibli movie. She's like, oh, there's one Ghibli movie that is focused on Fuchu area, the area I live. And guess what it revolves around?
Animal shifting.
Tanukis switching from humans to back to animal form. So yes, there is a lot of like mythical creatures. And
which movie is that?
I have to get the name. I'll get the name for you right now.
For sure.
But there's so many mythical creatures out there that I still think exist till today,
Yeah, for sure. One of the cool things about like Arabic / Muslim That's what's called Umpoco?
Pompoco.
Pompoco.
Yeah.
For sure. I will check that one out. But yeah, one of the more interesting things I've stuck with my quote unquote Muslim upbringing is that they are much more open to the ideas of extra dimensional beings living amongst us. Their term for it is jinn, and it's kind of just a branch all term for beings that exist in the in-between space that can interact with humans and all that. And you know, in the Western materialistic mindset, you don't even entertain those things, which kind of like leads to my thoughts on this whole alien phenomena. Because like the way I see it is, if the government tells you to start looking up, that means you start looking down, you know, and so on and so forth. And I've kind of realized like our government in itself has a long lineage. You can look up all the CIA research and all that of trying to work with extra dimensional beings, right? But you'll never hear like a government agency talk about that publicly. You'll never hear news, corporate media talk about extra dimensional beings, beings from inner space rather than outer space. You'll never hear them acknowledge that. They want you, for lack of better words, to keep giving NASA more money for zero results, and to kind of increase this materialistic perception of that you're in this void filled with nothingness, and maybe there's things out there, but the only way to contact them is to give us more money for your defense, and so we can contact them. So you're saying I have to give the government, you know, or the NASA, for example, like over $1 billion a year for zero results. Meanwhile, hippie Dave can just pay $500 to go to South America and have a ceremony with some shamans and do ayahuasca and guarantee you'll see aliens, you know, guarantee. How come NASA never talks about ayahuasca? How come NASA never talks about using high doses of mushrooms to make contact with things? I think Rick Strassman, who was the first scientist to allowed to conduct research on DMT, especially the first scientist allowed to conduct clinical research on DMT with government approval. He reported that over 60% of DMT users, despite age, cultural background, language spoken, reported contact with similar beings. How come they never talk about that? Like, doesn't that seem like a good route to go down to pursue this line of trying to make contact? They will never talk about that because they don't actually want you to know the truth. They just want more money. They want to increase paranoia. They want to increase this idea of that, oh, we're going to space, but you're just on this rock with nothingness, you know, like, and maybe there's something out there. Even now, they're not really giving a straight answer. Like, if you really want to meet aliens, I'm serious, just go, or whatever you want to, aliens, extra dimensional beings, go do some ayahuasca in a shamanistic setting. You'll meet some things, you know? Yeah, exactly. It's just like, you know, like you could wait your whole life and keep giving the government your tax money, or you could go spend $80 on a DMT pen and just sit down and play some meditation music, and you'll make some contact. So I think, like, it's, for lack of better words, a huge deception. And, you know, continue. Yeah. So to go on it a little more, you know, I've noticed once I started really entertaining this like flat earth concept, where we lived in an enclosed space, that we are the geocentric model, meaning we are the center of things. The universe or the stars move around us, rather than the heliocentric model, where we move around the sun and the sun's moving and we don't matter. You're just, you know, just a random rock floating around. When you start to entertain the geocentric idea of more of like an enclosed space, I find it makes you a lot more skeptical of things you can't prove for yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. And, you know, maybe when you start believing that, you start being introduced to a load of other crazy bullshit that you know, that may or may not be true. But in my experience, it just makes you a lot more skeptical of things you can't immediately prove by yourself, by experiments you could do by yourself. You know, I don't need a $10 million telescope to tell me that the North Star actually does move a little, but you can't see it with your own eyes. I can just know that it's always in the same point. It's been in the same point for all of recorded history. I don't need a $10 billion camera to see God knows what. I can just take a Nikon camera that's, you know, $2,000 and zoom past where the supposed curve is supposed to be many times over, you know? So with that, like this whole idea of aliens coming and visiting us and all that, like it's not something I can really prove, but I can guarantee prove for myself and anyone else can that extra dimensional beings exist. And that's the phenomena they don't talk about, which is the phenomena we should all be exploring more. You know, the ancients had vast literature. I recommend studying Vedic history, like the Mahabharata or the Vedas and all that. They talk about beings that live similar, like in the same space as us, just in another, you know, octave of reality, another parallel, parallel planes of existence. And you can interact with these things. Like, hey, if there's any materialist atheists doubting me, dude, like go and do a high dose of mushrooms in the woods during a full moon. Then come back to me and say that there's nothing beyond the material world. Then come back to me, because I've done that. And so there's almost nothing they can convince me otherwise, because I've gotten to see it for myself. And anyone listening, you can do it too.
Now switching to segments, right?
Yeah.
There is power in speaking the truths, right?
Yeah.
And there are dangers that come with it. So
a lot.
This was a lesson you recently learned.
Yeah.
You wanna explain on that? Because I feel like both of them are correlated, but I want you to explain it.
Yeah. So okay. So I have to be very particular about the language we use, because I don't want this channel to get ganked or whatever. So let's say in the past 3 years, due to an unknown virus of unspecified origin, I've gotten to see that government agencies, people in positions of authority, multinational corporations, pharmaceutical corporations will lie to your face and will expect complete compliance. And if you try and speak up, you get hammered down externally, right? And that idea of speaking the truth to what you literally see, it sounds intimidating. It sounds like it does more harm than good, but in reality of it, you'll find that that isn't necessarily the case. It really does, for lack of better words, and I think, for lack of better words, Tucker Carlson spoke about this somewhat recently, but you do get some sort of external energy, call it from God, call it from nature, call it from just sense, you know, just speaking the truth despite the harm it may cause. You do get a power from it. You do get some sort of just like guidance, divine guidance, some sort of
a divine boost of energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm telling you, it does more good than harm, because I've also noticed the for lack of better words, the biggest bitches are the ones that are going to complain and scream and shout the loudest, right? So if you say something that's truthful and it goes against their cultural conditioning, they're the ones that are going to be screaming about you on social media. They're the ones that are going to be making this huge racket. They're the ones that are going to be calling you, whether it's phobic or racist, anti-semi, homophobic, transphobe, whatever buzzword they need to feel better about themselves. They're the ones going to be shouting that. But all the real ones are going to be messaging you in private and not in this big thing, being like, dude, thank you so much for saying that. Like, bro, you're a real one. I got your back whenever. And they are much more in numbers than the few COVIDiots that will just scream about how you're endangering grandma or something. Bitch, I don't want to meet your grandma. Like I'm not trying to get your grandma. Get the fuck out of here. You know, they're the
Well,
ones
how
that'll be
about the danger.
So
telling
the
them
dangers of it, and this is real shit. The dangers of it are when you, because you're speaking the truth or a truth, you know, the people around you that didn't sign up for it could get swept up in the chaos, right? So it isn't really about yourself. And this is the fine line I've been really trying to work with, because I never want to put my friends in some sort of harm that they never asked for, you know? Like I do run a business. I do work with a lot of people. And if I'm saying something that is the truth, but could potentially harm them, that to me is where the danger is. And that's really it's a really delicate balance. And it's been a huge lesson for me, you know, because the reality of it is it ain't just about me. It's about the people in my life, the people that I care for, the people I want to build something with. And you do have to learn to know when to shut up and know when to speak up, because not every battle is worth fighting for. However, you know, if someone says that I have to lock myself in my house indefinitely for an unknown amount of time until I take God knows what poisons into my body several times a year, many times over, that maybe that is worth speaking out about. And I guess it's kind of my job to first off convince or talk to the people in my immediate circle, get them on the same vibe, make sure we're on the same vibe, and then maybe speak out and then get their thoughts. Like, hey, is it okay for me to speak up about on this? And, you know, a lot of the time it isn't. And so that's kind of a huge lesson I've learned, and I'm still trying to learn. And I'm still, because like, I'm one of those people that when I learn something, I'm going to just be screaming from the rooftops. I will be the crazy hobo on the street talking about how the Freemasons are trying to brain fuck us into a different reality. Like, I'll do that. But is it okay for my friends to see that their business partner or whatever is acting like a crazy person, a crazy evangelical preacher just shouting about, you know, end times? Probably not. You know, there is a professional face that we all have to wear, because, you know, business is business, you know. And, you know, it's a huge lesson to learn. And as I said, it's one that I'm going to do my best to keep integrating and learning.
Because like when I saw that on the thingy, I was like, that is deep, you know, the power of speaking the truth. But for me personally, not everybody can handle the truth, you know. And
well, that's what the Matrix is about. You know, there's Cypher in the first one who just wanted to eat a good steak. He didn't care about the truth. He just wanted steak. And you know what? Like,
yup, you know, and in those scenarios, like, because for me, it's funny because I believe there's no concept of good and bad. Yeah. You know, so the truth is good and bad, you know. And in those situations where the truth is bad, in definition, you tell a lie. And guess what? Lies can either be good or bad, you know. So it's the level at which what you believe, your own moral context, you know. Your moral context could either be tell the truth for a bad reason or tell a lie for a good reason, you know.
For sure. But I would interject that though there is the idea of white lies, you know, lies that mitigate harm to the people around you and lower it. You know, I'm a Taoist at heart, you know. What's more simple is usually the best way to go. And we all know the term lies have no legs, you know. So you can make a lie but then you're gonna eventually gonna have to keep building on this lie until you're entertaining a completely different reality. It's better, just like when you're on a date, it's better to let them know where you're at and where your heart's really at, how you really think right off the bat. Because then on the second date, you're gonna have to keep building on it, or you're gonna have to contradict yourself and actually tell your truth. You know, a good example I saw on the internet recently is like, I don't even tell girls on the first date that I'm a metalhead because that might scare them away. It's like, well, that girl's gonna catch you listening to metal sooner or later, and you know, it's like, I totally understand and resonate with what you're saying. As a Taoist, you know, everything has a yin and a yang. But as a pragmatist, it seems like almost more pragmatic and less complicated, more simple to just put it out there as you see it at, you know, at that current moment in time. Maybe your ideas will change, but I that's what I'm saying. I'm not like, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but to live a more harmonious life, I do find that it is better to just speak, at least at the very least, your truth right off the bat, you know, or at the very least, don't lie, just omit the truth, you know?
Well, to me,
Yeah.
to me, lying, like, everything is never that black and white. So it's like the opposite of truth is a lie. No, the opposite of truth is silence.
Hmm.
You know?
Okay, for sure. I get that.
So I put them on two different perspectives, you know? Because it's funny, I remember when I was a kid, my teacher would be like, I know one of you motherfuckers is going live because it's in our DNA. And I don't know why that kept stuck with me. And that's how I see it. You know, you're not going to tell a girl you're a metalhead in the beginning. You're not lying to her. You're just not telling her the full truth. You know, you're going to find out eventually. And that's omission of, you know, like the full story. For me, that is mystery. That's how mystery is, you know, created. You know, but because words, for me, I feel words have power, and not everybody knows the powers that's contained in words.
Yeah.
So when people talk about like lies or stuff like that, I lie. You know, like, it might be just to give myself some time to catch up, but like, I have to sometimes catch myself saying things that, like, why did I even say that? Like, why did I, you know, I could have just shut up and, you know, it's sometimes it's a compulsory thing, you know, somebody's like, la, 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 yeah, I did it. You didn't do shit, you know? But to bring this all full circle, sometimes I think some of the things the government are doing, you know, is to protect them from the dangers of truth. In terms of the whole space thing, they masked it with this expensive, you need a $10 million telescope, you need a $50 billion rocket. To They tell you this, but it's not the truth. But they tell you this because they do not want you to get the damage or repercussion that comes out of it. Because if there was no government, then it would be what's the word? It starts with a anarchy.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
it would be anarchy. So I see, like, sometimes I give the government a pass because they need, like, if I had to run this community or society or this world, man, I have learned from the best. I'm going to do exactly the same.
I mean, they do it. That's true. They do their what they do for a reason. It's not like government's something new. They have had a vast history to build off of and to know how to run the show. You know, like that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
So for me, I'm like, I hate the fact that, like, the world is so broken, but I appreciate, you know, because, like, every stage of my life, I learned something new, you know, especially with this whole Renegade Pirates thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right now I'm on season 4, which is the Lost season, and Lost, the life original soundtrack. That's basically this season. And it's so funny how I've left the States, all American problems, so, like, fuck America, right?
Yeah.
I come to Japan and it's the exact same thing, just a different flavor. So for me, it's like, God damn, you motherfuckers are doing brainwashing on a global scale, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And when I see it and I compare, yes, there are, like, some things they do in the States that's, like, more progressive, more like for the people. And there's some things that's like, same shit goes down here, you know? And
yeah.
I'm like, man, are you telling me that I'm supposed to be like a, you know, like this? There's no alternative. Like, if I do get power, like, if I do get that ultimate power, I have to do the same thing.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me a lot of my friends that like complain about how evil capitalism is or this and that. Like, capitalism is just a good example. And one thing I always go back to is a fish can't hate the water in which it swims, dude. It doesn't help. It's not, like, you know, you can't do that. This is what we're born into. You can learn to navigate it as well as you can, but to just be like, no, we should all be in, like, air right now. We should all be on land right now or whatever. It's just like, okay, maybe you can work towards that. Yeah. But the reality of it is that's the medium you're in. And, you know, you'll find more success learning to swim efficiently than you would just being like, no, I'm not going to swim at all. Because then you'll just get eaten by a shark, you know, or God knows what. Just, you know, it's I don't surf, but I have so much respect for the surfer ethos, where it's just like, they're not trying to fight the waves, dude. They just go with the waves and try to ride them the best they can and in the safest way, you know? And, you know, you'll find that, you know, surfers are often the people most at Zen, you know, except maybe in Hawaii, where apparently they're just trying to fight everyone all the time. But you know, and even in Venice Beach, it's like, oh, bro, you tried catching my wave. Like, I was in queue for that. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, oh, shut the fuck up, bro. But, like, for the most part, they're really, like, very calm people. But you spoke to something that was actually, like, super interesting to me, because I have this one friend who's completely over America, right? And he just talks about, like, oh man, it's just so much better in Asia. Here in America, everyone's trying to lie. Everyone's trying to, and mind you, he hasn't traveled that much. He's only really been to Mexico and Thailand, right? and he's just like, everyone's trying to lie. Everyone's like, it's full of shit, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's just so much more better in Asia. And I'm like, do you realize in most of Asian countries, lying is an integral part of their culture? They just have a different term for it. It's called saving face. But it's literally like, go to Japan. It's like, if anything, it's the country of lies. You know, you always have to have this certain, like, you have to have this certain face about all things, you know? Like, in Japan, there's, especially in the older generation, at least to what I know, it's just like, they'll do a decent job pretending that they're happy to see you, but deep down they're like, God damn, get the fuck out of here, you Gaijin, or whatever the fuck, you know. Like there's like a get the fuck out. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they just call it something different and it's more culturally accepted. So I'm like, and he's like, in America everyone's just about money. I'm like, that's literally everywhere else, dude. There's a reason why cartels exist in South America. They want some money. Like there's a go anywhere. They want money. It's just like
they want money everywhere.
It's like, if I want to move to Thailand, I'm not in my head about how I'm like, oh, they're not going to want money there. I'm not going to. I want money. I want money now, and I'm going to want money then, so I can build a better vision of the temple I want to build for myself. But like, it's this whole the grass is greener thing. It just like, it's not the case, you know. For every place you move to, there's gonna be a whole different set of cultural values you're gonna have to adapt to, and some you're really gonna like and some you really aren't gonna like, you know. In Japan, you don't really like, I could leave my bike out in the most busy city in Japan and know that if my bike is touched, it's literally just going to be someone moving it into a nicer spot right nearby, so it's not getting in the way of traffic or people walking, right? But and you won't have to deal with as many like meth heads or any of that. But guess what? They're all on pills or God knows what, and you know that does relatively the same thing. Maybe it doesn't deform your face the same way and make you like an aggro douchebag, but they're all on pills, and they may not have meth, but guess what? You'll get 5 years if you're caught with a nug. Yeah, you know. So just like, what is this? It's like Japan to me is like one of the coolest fucking places on earth, and it would be a privilege to live there. But I like having the option to smoke weed relatively freely. I like having that option. I haven't smoked pot since I went to Japan. Actually, I smoked it like 1 or 2 times since, and I went to Japan 2 months ago. And this is coming from a guy that was pretty much smoked multiple spliffs every hour of every single day. Right now, even I'm just rolling some ciggies right now, but like, I like that option. I find that I'm a lot better and more social and more comfortable in places with stoner culture than it's rather just drinking. That's why I didn't like Indonesia that much. I didn't like Bali that much, because like, it's all like, if you're going to be social, you're going to drink, and that's it. You can't be caught with anything out there. Anything that isn't alcohol, which is a drug, but you can't be caught with any other drug out there. And whereas Thailand, which really has a solid place in my heart, they just legalized weed. They decriminalized all psychedelics pretty much, or at least plant medicines. And I think the shrooms might even be legal there. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's at the very least decriminalized. So that place, I have the option of being like with the stoner aesthetic, where it's just like, I prefer passing the joint to the people I'm talking to rather than we all have our own beer. There's no psychedelic art on the walls. There's none of this, none of that. And the music that comes with stoner culture, I like a lot more. I like, fucking deep ass, drum and bass and dubstep and techno rather than just like, big room house or all like that. And to be fair, even though Japan's a drinking culture, they have all the best. They have all the dopest music you can ask for. But like in most places, if you just go to places with drinking culture, it's going to be like top 40s rinsing and really shitty big room house and all that stuff. And it's just like, I'm not real quick. Yeah, I'm not really about that vibe, But it just goes to show that it's like the grass isn't actually greener. For all my friends that are in America, born here and all this place is actually a lot greater than you think. It comes with all, I don't like my tax money going to bombing countries, obviously, I don't like the prison industrial complex that has developed over here, where the land of the free has the highest incarceration incarcerated population in the world. I don't like that at all, but I do like that I can openly criticize my government. There are places in Europe where you can't do that. I do like in Thailand, the place I want to move to. Try saying something bad about the king. You'll either end up in jail, get beat the fuck up, or kicked out of the country in 1 second. It's decapitated. Yeah, exactly. In a second. You're not allowed to criticize the king there or the royal family. So free speech there doesn't exist to nearly the same extent. And I think like free speech is the most fundamental tenet of a free, open, and quote unquote harmonious society. If you don't, if you're not allowed to say the words that are coming to your mind, you are not free. You are completely owned. You are a slave. And I think that is one thing that Americans need to make an active role and effort to preserving, because with free speech, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And we're watching that happen right in front of our face right now, you know, with this increased online censorship and increased censorship. You're finding that like people are having more and more of an allergic reaction to ideas they haven't heard instead of embracing ideas that they haven't heard. They're having an allergic reaction, and it starts with online, but before you know it, it's gonna
trickle down,
translate to the physical world, you know, right in front of us. So it's just like, it's an important thing. And yeah, you know, it's really, really important that we exercise that as much as possible.
Speaking of exercise, you're doing Muay Thai, right?
Yeah. I've been doing, so one of my goals was I can't move to Thailand until I've done a Muay Thai fight, an amateur fight or something, because, you know, competing is something I've always wanted to do. But yeah, I'm going to be real. Like, Thai people are scary as fuck when it comes to Muay Thai. So I'd rather just fight an American that hasn't been doing it since they were 5 years old. Just get that itch scratched right away, and you know, just get it out of the way. And, you know, I've found that, like, you know, I've been in and out. Like, I went to school for psychology and all that, and I do think there are benefits to seeing a therapist and all that, but I have found that a consistent martial arts practice and working with a coach has done more for my psychological well-being in 6 months than 10+ years of seeing a therapist. You know, it really does, at least for young men, it really does change your life in a better way, you know? And
so why Muay Thai instead of like Krav Maga, you know?
Okay, for Krav Maga, for example, I think it's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, YouTube comments, I kind of think it's like pussy shit, dude. And like, it teaches you to pull hair and kick in the nuts and like poke eyeballs and stuff. And it's like, bro, I want to fight with some honor. It's like, I get it. You know, when you're in a real street fight, you need everything you can, right? But I don't plan on getting in a real street fight, dude. Like, you know, for the most part, I fight with my mind. The best way to win a fight, the only way to win a fight is to not be in it. I don't care what anyone says. The only way to win a fight is to not be in it. And so I don't ever plan on being in a street fight. And if I am, I can guarantee that with proper, you know, training in Muay Thai, there's a higher chance I'll be able to rock the fool that I'm fighting than him being able to rock me, because most people aren't trained in martial arts in general. Yeah. But like, I didn't just start with Muay Thai. I've been a martial artist for all of my adult life, from 14 on to what I am now, 32. And I started with Wing Chun, pretty much. That's where my martial arts journey really started. So Chinese martial arts.
Kung Fu, kind of?
Yeah. Kung Fu, essentially. And I've been doing that, and I got really attracted to the idea of how Chinese martial arts do a very good job splitting it between internal martial arts and external, where there's a lot of internal disciplines meant for cultivating, for lack of better words, chi, stability, balance, and all that, while teaching you to kick ass externally. But, you know, if I wanted to actually, like, you know, be confident in being able to win fights, Chinese martial arts may not be the best way to do things. You know, it's a lot stylistically. It's you know, aesthetically it looks cool, but, you know, you're not going to see very, very many MMA fighters with a solid foundation in Chinese martial arts, aside from maybe Anderson Silva, and who's known for his vast appreciation for Wing Chun. But like, I started with Wing Chun, and then I got extremely drawn to internal martial arts disciplines, because I was a circus performer for a while, and you need to build balance, flexibility, be able to be calm in front of crowds and stuff. And so I noticed that all the best circus performers I knew actually had some sort of foundation in Tai Chi. And I've been doing Tai Chi for about 7 years now, and I've been doing yoga since pretty much I was born. You know, I love yoga and all that, but I found Tai Chi has been the most beneficial practice to my life I've ever done. You know, I love Tai Chi. I will never stop doing it. I love Tai Chi. I love Qigong. But I was doing that for about 7 years. And so I put so much focus onto the internal aspect of things that I realized I'm now neglecting the external martial arts. And so then when I started thinking, okay, what's the most practical / coolest external martial art that interests me? And it really comes down to wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or Muay Thai. Those are like the three you'll see most MMA fighters use on a consistent basis. And I've always loved Muay Thai ever since I saw my first Tony Jaa movie. So yeah, right after that, you know, yeah, on back, dude. After I saw that, I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I did Muay Thai, you know, like 10-ish or maybe like, yeah, 10-ish to 14-ish years ago. I did it very briefly. And I remember my first sparring session. So the class I went to, like, first off, it was far away from where I lived, and dealing with traffic is just not practical for me. But I remember the first class I went to, they made me spar, and I just got paired up with this beast, and he pretty much almost knocked, like, he landed a spinning back fist on me, and it almost knocked me. I was dizzy and stumbling around, and that kind of scared me away from doing Muay Thai again. So I put it on the back burner for years. But then afterwards, you know, about a year and a half ago, I was just like, okay, I'm ready to start doing this again. And it absolutely changed my life. It changed, you know, my mom always says whenever I see her that, like, my character and how I walk around has improved so much since I started doing this. And, you know, it's very rare that a mom will say, like, oh yeah, keep doing that thing that might get you elbowed in the face. You know, like, it's very rare. So I knew that, like, okay, this is actually doing something for me. Cause, you know, your mom's going to be the most honest person in your life, you know,
You
like,
hope so.
yeah, you hope so. In most cases, in most cases, moms know what's best for you and try to. Now, granted, there's always exceptions. If your mom's an alcoholic, if your mom's a this, if your mom's a that. My mom was a good mom. I had great parents. They do want what's best for me. So when they saw that how it was kind of just changing how I walked around in the world, to me, that was the last kind of green light I needed to keep doing this stuff. And another thing is, like, you know, when I started going, it's because I practiced at the UFC gym in Oxnard, and this common misconception a lot of people had, and I was guilty of it, is that, oh man, all the people I see at this gym are going to be like dumb ass aggro meatheads, you know, looking to start shit, and, you know, just like the kind of douchebags you'll see at a bar always looking for a fight. It's the complete opposite. Yeah. These are the nicest, arguably smartest community of people I've ever met. They are all looking to watch you improve and help them improve. Because if you improve, that means you'll be a better sparring partner, which will increase their way of fighting. And they are just such great, solid people. It's, you know, it's fear not the person that's starting shit and yelling at the bar. Fear the person that's quiet during the whole time and staying completely calm. That's the guy you don't mess with.
Yep,
you know?
Yep. The ones that's quiet is the one that, you know, he done seen some shit. You know, he done practice some shit. Yeah.
So I was curious about something you said earlier, and just to go back a little, you said you're on season 4 of your show on YouTube, Renegade Pirates.
Yeah, not the show specifically.
Just
mindset. So the first one is basically when I started the whole Renegade Pirates.
Yeah, so I just wanted to tell me about why you started it, and then what's the ethos behind each season, if you don't mind. Because I run a YouTube channel myself, Lucid Trips on YouTube. Look it up; it's travel based. But I'm actually very curious about why you started a YouTube channel, because putting yourself out on the internet's a scary thing. So it's a scary thing, and you know, everyone wants to do it, but not everyone's compelled enough to do it. So can you tell me a little bit why you started it, and then what the ethos is behind each season that you've done?
Okay. So Renegade Pirates started when I was back in San Diego, and I used to go sailing. Every week I used to go. I had a 22-foot yacht that I used to go sailing with. And it all started with that. I went sailing. Actually, let me even go to the beginning. Let me just tell you from the beginning. You know, so at my last the job I was working at the time, there was this cat, Ali. Ali was Middle Eastern, sexy looking guy. You typical Middle Eastern swag, you know, born in the States, you know, had all the swag. And me and he used to talk, and on his Instagram, every week this motherfucker is on a yacht. Every week he's on a yacht, you know, cute babes around him, you know, enjoying the sun. And I'm like, man, I got to get on this. I got to, you know. So one day I hit him up and I'm like, yo, Ali, tell her, like, hook a brother up. You know, you're on this yacht all the time. Tell me, I don't want to go on the yacht with you just to get the clouds. You know, like, I want to be the guy on the yacht. So he's like, you know what? You need to join the yacht club. So I'm, all right, bet. I joined the yacht club, got the training, got the yachts, and now I need friends, right? I need friends to go on the yacht. Like, I finally got it, you know. All the hot girls is already lined up to go on the sailing. Only thing left is my boys, right? Nobody wanted to come. Nobody wanted to come sailing with me.
I get it. I get seasick, bro. Sometimes it scares me.
You know, I heard every excuse known to man. Everyone, you know. And not to, some people did come. Some people did, you know, eventually come sailing with me. And I hated, like, at that point in time, I hated San Diego. Because now I'm living the, like, I got one step to my dream of big pimping, you know. I got a yacht. Like, how many of your friends can you say have a yacht at their disposal? You know, you can't say that. Your boy finally made it. Your boy big pimping now, you know. So let's go sailing. Nobody wants to come. 1, 2 people, they come one time. They're like, all right, I'm good. I don't want to come no more. I get some excuses. So I got heartbroken. I said, fuck everybody, fuck the world. And I traveled to Japan. I spent 3 months in Japan. And my main idea was fuck the people back home. You know, fuck everybody that don't want to go fuck with me, you know, fuck y'all. I need new people in my life, new friends, new everything. But I didn't know how to get new friends. You know, I just came to Japan. I'm in the hostel. I'm in a new world, culture shock. All this is happening. And I started meeting people. I started every day in the hostel. Like the first day I got there, I met a new guy. I met a new person. He had an interesting story. He had an interesting story. They had an interesting story. And I'm like, some of these stories, if I tell another person, like, man, I met this dude, nobody's gonna believe me. You know, nobody's gonna believe me. So in the hostel, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Y'all telling some sweet stories. Y'all mind if I start recording this shit? And they were like, yeah. So like the first podcast is on Spotify somewhere. It's like an hour long, and it's me and this chick talking. And this chick, to me, she's phenomenal. She has 2 jobs. She's a meter maid and an advertiser. You know, and she only works 6
the most
months.
loved jobs. Everyone loves meter maids and advertisers.
And she works only 6 months a year and travels the remaining, you know? So I started hearing like all these people's interesting stories, you know? And because of the stories, that gave me like a new sense of like passion. You know, my friends back home were doing a podcast. So I just was like, you know what? Boom, let's do this, you know? Started recording like on my phone. I'll just take my phone out, slap it on the table, press record, and that's how it started. You know, it started off me just trying to discover myself, you know, and by talking to all these people, the first thing everybody's like, stress less, you know, you don't need to stress too much. So the first season, well, the second season was stress less. The first one was more of the sailing stuff. The second season was stress less. Third season was frame of mind. You know, after you stress less, you know, you have to change your frame of mind, you know, that perspective change. And that's what they gave me. I met Jesse, for crying out loud, on that trip, you know. So like meeting all these people gave me a different frame of mind. So,
and by the way, Jesse is an amazing person. He's the reason why me and you met. I highly recommend looking up Jesse Luis Rodriguez. He's one of the best circus performers and fire spinners I ever met. If I remembered your Instagram, I would shout it out right now, but you know, we can share it later.
Performer, Jesse.
There we go. Look him up. He is amazing. If you need to hire anyone to do circus performances and fire gigs for your weddings, shows, and everything in between, definitely look him up. Definitely look him up and toss this guy a fat wad of cash because he will rock your shit out. But carry on.
So yeah, then coming back, you know, now I have this frame of mind, you know, and the frame of mind kept changing, you know, because it's like every time after coming back from Japan, and to break it down, now I have a new appreciation for my friends. You know, I met new friends. They've told me their stories. I now go back home after 3 months in Japan, and I look at my life. I take a very good look at my life. And I realize that I'm the one making mistakes. You know, I'm the one making excuses for the things I'm not doing. Hence the frame of mind. Since that's the season of frame of mind. And in that season, there is two predominant, like a part 1, part 2. I call it old Gucci and new Gucci. You know, old Gucci is that's when I started like creating more designs, t-shirt designs, you know, just creating shit, you know, just design a new t-shirt, put it on the website, give it to a friend, design something new, put it out, give it to a friend. Then new Gucci, I didn't share it with friends. You know, I went more the capitalistic route, looking at the famous people and like how they move and like, and realizing that like, if you're going to buy a Yeezy shirt that has holes in it for like $5,000, why the fuck will I care if you buy my $20 shirt or not? Like, you already have your priorities to buy that shirt. So now I don't care. My shirt is, if you buy that for $5, my shirt is $10,000, you know? So you ain't even got enough money to fuck with me. So that was the new Gucci. So I didn't do no promotions, no marketing, just, you know, kept it silent. Then coming to Japan, you know, it's a whole new world. It's not the same things that I could do in the States. Here, I'm really, really lost, you know. But when I tell people I'm lost, they automatically think that's a bad thing, you know. And for me, being lost is accepting that I don't know anything, you know. It's a step for me in the right direction. And it's so cool because any step I take is the right direction because I am lost.
Love it.
And that's the new mindset that I'm taking now with the series now. It's lost, you know. I like it because it gives me the opportunity to try new shit that I've never done. Like, I haven't done podcasts like this since last year. Like last year, this time I had like 12 different podcasts I was doing. I recorded a bunch of them. I never edited them. I never posted them online. I just kept them to myself. So now I'm posting them, sharing them. You'll see the social media stuff with me doing stuff. because now it's my life's original soundtrack. You know, I'll still make some music because of the arts that I just saw. I'm going to draw some arts. And recently, I've been looking at Mischief. And I really, really, really resonate with their philosophy. So when I look at their portfolio and like the things that they have done, I see myself doing the same thing.
You when you're looking at who's like, who do you mean by they?
Mischief.
Okay, for sure.
You know Mischief, right?
No, I don't.
So Mischief, it's art collective.
Okay, for sure.
They're based in New York, and they are responsible for the Big Red Shoe.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, them. So their whole gimmick is they show the absurdities in our culture.
Hence the Big Red Shoes.
Hence the Big Red Shoe. So by seeing, like, reading their profile and like what they do, I see that like, shit, from me doing the music, from me doing the podcasting, from me doing my random projects where I do like spurts of little things, I see like the similarities. So I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should look in it instead of everything individually. You know, let me embrace this random ideas of different things into one. You know, call it the collective. You know, today I might be on that music tip. Tomorrow we podcasting. You know, the next week, shit, trying to record a video. You know, God damn it, let's do it. You know, we're alive. We're not dead yet. So the possibilities of doing anything is infinite as long as you do it. So that's the main concept of the podcast is my journey. The whole collective of everything I'm doing, Renegade projects, which is the music, the YouTube, the videos, they're all different aspects of the things that I've learned and how to, like, you know,
integrate it all and build yourself, you know. And you know, there's like a lot of stuff you said there that I really resonate. And you know, like the first one, for example, is how at one point, like, you weren't finding, quote unquote, the results you wanted from your yacht adventure. And you learned that, hey, maybe it's not everyone else that's the problem, quote unquote, it's me that's the problem. And that ethos and mindset, I think, is one of the most important things anyone can embrace for themselves. And I could bring it back to, you know, like getting women, for example, you know, just like a thing, you know, like I, of lack of better words, used to have like no success in that world. And it was extremely minimal. And, you know, there's really two routes you can take, the quote unquote incel route, you know, and I'm not one of those people that like hate incels just for existing. Like, I actually sympathize with that. And I found that there's sometimes the most funniest people. They're just socially awkward, but there's a poisonous aspect to that where they choose to blame everyone else for their lack of success in that world. And what I've learned is, no, blame yourself and become a more interesting person. And part of that process is like what you're doing now, which is essentially like anything that you find interesting, you've learned to just do it.
Yep.
It just do it. Like the whether or not the results turn out good or bad, people will find it interesting that you're doing it, you know? Like when I'm in my process, my journey of making electronic music, you know, it's not exactly where I want it to be. I've made like a couple of good tracks that I'm like actually super happy with and all that, but it's the process of doing it that's going to attract people. It's going to attract fellow producers. It's going to attract people on a similar path that want to just better themselves. It's going to attract women because they're like, oh, what, you actually know how to do this? And they're like, I know how to do it enough that I could show you the basics behind it. And, you know, you'll just, it's just doing it, you know, and eventually, like, nothing really has to be perfect. And a good example, this is a lot of the biggest music that's floating around right now is absolute shit. It's absolute garbage, but people still listen to it. And it's just a matter of repetition. They'll see the same name popping over and over. And, you know, at one point they'll develop an ear for it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect because, you know, a lot of time, no art is really finished. It's just gets to a point where you're done and you're just like ready.
Yeah.
So it's doing, you know, you're done with it, and then it's being comfortable just putting it out there. And so there's that aspect of things that I really found interesting and I really vibe with. And the other thing is what you said, which is like, when you started meeting all these people in your travels, you start to meet these people and see these things that when you try explaining it back home, no one will understand and no one will believe you. And that's actually a huge reason why I started making YouTube videos, is because I was traveling a lot and I was seeing these things that I just wanted all my friends to see. I could be like, yo, I went to this place in Thailand and it was heaven on earth and it had this and it had that. And it's like one thing to explain it to people, but when you actually get to show your friends exactly what you're talking about, then they kind of like, oh, snap, like this does exist. Like this is real, you know. And I get the greatest joy from actually, you know, sometimes I feel like that annoying uncle that back in the 80s that had the slideshow and it's just like, oh, and then I went to the beach and then I did this and then I did that. But unlike the annoying uncle, you actually have videos now that you could like kind of just show people. It'll be a lot more condensed. People can just click into what they want to see instead of having to see the whole goddamn slideshow in person. And it's so real and it's so rewarding, because I know there are things that now, like, I know there are things that my friends, there are opportunities that my friends would take now for me showing them things visually that they wouldn't take. I've literally I've traveled alone so much, and that's where I'm really the most happy. But sometimes you want your best friends to see it too. And I know now there are friends that have traveled with me because they've gotten to see the things that I've seen, even if it's just a little. Unfortunately, I always find the best conversations and things I see are when I don't have my camera out, you know, because you never know when it's really going to pop up. But, you know, the ones that you do manage to capture, and it helped make that trip to Japan that we really got to vibe in. Like, I got to bring a bunch of my friends from LA out to Japan. All of them are really solid people, some really fucking crazy, and you can only deal with in small doses. But, you know, it's just this dynamic of all these personalities stepping outside of what they know and inspired to see these things because of you. That really is just, it's really so rewarding, because I know that on a level, like, I change these people's lives for the better. You know, maybe not from showing them a video directly, but because I showed them the video, because I talked about it, because I offered them opportunity to come with me. And I was like, I'll take care of everything, housing, this, that. You just have to meet me, not even halfway, meet me a quarter of the way, and just show up. And it's such a rewarding experience. So even if, let's say, you're starting a channel and you posted, you know, 5 or 10 videos and no one on the internet's paying attention, but you could at least just show it to your friends. And that, what matters more than your actual community of people you've put yourself around actually being inspired by that? That's really the most important thing. And you know, keep in mind also, if you're putting out YouTube videos or music, there's so many dynamics that go into getting it into a wider audience besides just making a good video, besides just making a good song. You'll find people that have the craziest music on SoundCloud with like 200 followers, and they don't know how to market. They don't know when to post things. They don't know, you know, that stuff is always changing. It's always changing. Algorithms are always changing.
That is the beauty. Like, for me, that's the sweetest part of it. Like, there's so much in between. Like, you have to learn and you have to know that. Like, I guess I get why some people are afraid, you know, why they don't want to do the things they want to do, music, YouTube. They're afraid because, yes, there is a lot to learn in the process.
Yeah, and it's scary. You know, you say the wrong thing in a YouTube video, or you have too much fun, and some angry person is going to try and dox you and ruin your life just because you've experienced something they haven't, or you have an opinion that's different from them. You know, that shit can really bite you in the ass in ways you don't expect. You know, Thank God that hasn't happened to me per se, but like it is a real phenomenon. There are people out there with literally nothing better to do. So when you're putting yourself into this void of the internet where everyone can see it from all walks of life, it does come with dangers, you know. But you know, like as Jordan Peterson said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's just like, you know, the dragons guard the treasure, you know, like through the danger you will find treasure. And that's some real talk. Yeah, it's like that no risk no reward thing is real, and you can live a very, very, very safe life, but that life is going to be boring and you're not going to grow from it in any way, which is why I highly recommend traveling to all people, to everyone. Like if you can do it, and you'll find that like the biggest cope and the biggest reason you'll often find people saying I can't travel is I don't have enough money. But once you're traveling, you'll realize no one has enough money. They're still finding a way to do it. And you have to rely on all these different aspects of yourself to make that journey let's say I'm not gonna, more comfortable might be the right word, but to make that journey more doable, you know. And it comes down to, you know, I could always bring it back to my circus people, because no one does it better than them, you know. And now if they're traveling and they don't have enough money, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna start busking, or they're gonna start teaching workshops on how to do their circus skills. You know, like I know how to spin poi, I know how to spin fire. I will, like, you know, sit out there and just stick out a hat or something, and you know, and just start doing that, and just being like, you know, donate if you want to. Hey, you want a lesson? Here you go. Or I'll find a collective of fire spinners and circus people, and I'll just start kicking it with them, because they'll all take care of each other. They'll provide opportunities for me. If you know how to play the guitar, then, you know, be that douchebag that plays Wonderwall on the streets. You know, all the bitches love Wonderwall. You know, do that. And you know, if you're from Alabama, whip out that banjo. They don't have banjos in Japan. Whip out the banjo, dog. They'll love it. You know, like we all hopefully have some skills that we can offer to people that will make the journey rewarding and will teach you. And, you know, it gets to a certain point. So maybe you don't have to go to a crazy place right away. Go to a place where there are a lot of travelers that are.
Say go to it. Like what my whole thing was, because I realized it's hard to tell somebody to travel. You know, they can have a lot of stuff in their own world going that prevents them from traveling. But the explore, that's like my slogan is explore, experience, and remix.
I love that.
You can explore your neighborhood. You could explore, like when I left San Diego and I came to Japan for that 3 months and I hated it. I hated San Diego, you know. But after being in Japan and people telling me, wow, I went to San Diego, I went to this park. I'm like, bitch, I lived there and I've never been there, you know. So it made me come back with an appreciation of like, you know what? If motherfuckers spent like their best time in a place that I'm living and I find it boring, it's not the place. It's not this place, you know. So I started looking, I started doing some research. And San Diego has mountains, San Diego has snow, San Diego has like, I did a skit. Me and my brother.
It's great food. As Mexico,
great,
right there.
Everything. You know, we did. We did San Diego snow. Where we're selling San Diego snow. We did San Diego sand. You got beaches everywhere. You know, so there's so many. Like, there was so much to like experience that I started doing tours. I started taking people out. Let's go every week, a new place. You know, and because of that, I started meeting new people in the same San Diego that I've been living, you know, met new people, got to talk to the other people, go new locations. And
I still call it 92115. People don't want to leave their neighborhood, their zip code. They will go as far as the borders of their zip code, not a step further. You know, they'll be like, I go to the park in my neighborhood. You walk by the park. Walking by the park and going to the park is two different things, you know? Yeah. But when you compare both of them together, you need to explore more. You need to leave your neighborhood. Like San Diego is right next to Mexico. And I can tell you how many people I know that has never been to Mexico.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? They're like, they give you excuses. I don't have a passport. Tell a motherfucker,
get a passport.
They get the passport. They're like, all right, motherfucker, you got your passport. No, I'm waiting to go back to, you know, the motherland. Because you didn't go next door.
You're not going to the motherland, dude.
You want to go to the motherland? You know what? More power to you, brother. And it's on podcast. You know, it's on podcast. You said this shit, you gonna do it? Nah, but like, bro, come on. It's been like 6 years now. You haven't even used the passport. You know, you hit him up like, what's up? You coming to come visit me? At least I'm out here now. He gives you a perfect excuse. Some of them have made it. Some of them have made it. Others, I don't even know if they got their passport.
And I bet you those others that didn't make the effort always complain about how shitty life is and how boring life is. I remember talking to you when we were in Japan about a friend I used to have that I actually, one of the few friends I cut contact with because like he just was a very poisonous person deep down. And, you know, he lived in Boulder, and this dude has lived in Boulder his whole life. Never goes to different states. If he did, it'd be for like, you know, 3 days, maybe come right back. He would always complain about how much he hates being where he is in life and how he feels stuck and how this and that. And I'd be like, I literally offered him a free ticket. I was like, bro, come with me to Asia. I will pay for it. No, too scared. Like Asia sounds like this. He'll find any excuse, whether it's like, oh, I can't go to a place where they don't have a perfect bathroom. Like, they have great bathrooms there. Like, what are you talking about?
What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know. Just any excuse, you know.
I know.
He would complain to me about him not having enough money, and then in the same sentence, in the same conversation, 2 minutes later, would be pissed at me for not being comfortable giving all my money to Ukraine. And I'm just like, bro, like, maybe if you weren't so, he'd complain about not having enough money, but how much he hates capitalism. And I'm like, bro, maybe it's this idea of like money bad. Maybe it's this idea of you're comfortable giving your money to people you've never met, to potentially one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. You know, maybe it's this idea that this mentality you hold on to that is keeping you back. Maybe it's this fear of traveling that's keeping you back. And instead of kind of being like, oh yeah, maybe, he would just talk about how I'm so privileged because I could go here and you don't get what it's like being here, and like blah blah blah. And he's like, you don't know what it's like, the struggle of being a minority or what. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? My skin's darker than yours, dog. Like this, that, and like he'd be like, first off, and you live in Boulder, Colorado, one of the whitest places on earth. And I've probably interacted with, I'm not kidding, like I've probably interacted with more black people in one day than he has his whole life. And it's just like, any excuse you can pull out the book, you know, it's like there's COVID going on. You're putting people at risk by going outside, anything. And at that point, once he started doing the whole branch COVIDian thing, I was just like, bro, like, you know what, dude, I don't need to be around you. There are plenty of people that actually are down to grip life by the balls and would jump at the opportunity for a free ticket. And I like cut him out of my life because, you know what, like for anyone that's listening, you are a product of the company you keep. It's a huge life lesson I learned. the 5 people you spend the most time with in your life is equals you, you know? And if you keep surrounding yourself with, there's nothing wrong with being a pothead, but if you're only hanging around stoners that don't make music, that don't make art, that don't use the substance to channel higher creativity and a higher sense of adventure, then you're a bum. You're no different than a dope head. You know, there are plenty of people that will use that substance, whichever substance, to channel their creative life force and build something from it. And if you're not doing that, then you're not. Yeah, exactly. So just like I don't need to be around those people. You don't need to be around those people. And if someone's not trying to actively better themselves every single day, you know, a day is a success if you practice one thing for 15 minutes that you've always wanted to do. And then it's always a success. You know, it's always a better day because you'll know the next day you're a more well-rounded, more evolved human being. And so 15
minutes a day keeps the haters away.
That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need to do. You know, like this same dude would complain about like, oh, like I want to do art and stuff, and I want to make music. So I'm like, okay, I have an art collective. I have musicians, you know, get somewhat comfortable. I'll send you beats. I'll send you art. 2 years later, never did anything. 3 years later, never did anything. Just complain. And then in juxtaposition, I shared with him a story of a friend I had from Sedona. He makes awesome music. I actually am just finishing an EP with him. His name's Sean, but his artist name is Seba, or I guess it's SBA. And I met him in Sedona, and he was homeless. And me and him, I saw that we went to a gym. He would go to a gym to, you know, take showers and all this. And I saw that he was trying to practice martial arts from his phone. He would just watch a phone and then try and copy martial arts. So I started a conversation with him, and I'm like, yo, bro, like, there's this guy I know that does Shaolin Kung Fu and Bagozhang at his house twice a week, his little mini Shaolin temple that he built for himself. Why don't you come with me and take some of these classes with me? And, you know, 10 minutes later, my martial arts teacher walked into that gym, and I'm like, that's the guy. You should talk with him. And so he talked to them. We started doing martial arts together. He'd just show up, and we started vibing, and I saw that he was interested in music and actually made music on his shitty ass laptop and all that. I'm like, come to my house. We'll work on my actual computer, all this. And he told me right off the bat, he's like, in 6 to 8 months, I want to move to Asia and I want to teach martial arts and stuff. And he accomplished that. All he needed was the right people in his life. I'm like, you can sleep at my house whenever you want. You can store your food in my fridge. You know, granted, you can't live here, but like you can stay here for multiple days at a time, then leave and then come back and all this. Within 6 to 8 months, he was in Thailand teaching at a Shaolin temple, Kung Fu. 6 to 8 months. And I tried sharing that with that fucking broke ass loser friend from Boulder, and he got angry at me for telling him that story. He said, oh, I bet your friend was really rich at heart, or really rich and came from a wealthy family. I'm like, bro, this dude was homeless. I saw the tent he was living in the forest. He started insulting the guy. He started insulting me. He started like, and that, to be honest, that was the actual last straw when I was just like, damn, dude, like, you are broken, bro. You are broken. And I am not like, if telling you a homeless friend that accomplished more in 6 months than he accomplished in 6 years, really just fucking, he was lashing out any way he could. And, you know, it's just like, it's all possible, you know? As I said, you are the company you keep. Find yourself with supportive people that are helping you on your life journey. Express those intentions and actually work towards those intentions, and people will see it and people will notice. You know, if you're most people aren't going to just be like, oh, homeless person, you can stay at my house. But I saw like homeless person that, oh, he's coming to the Kung Fu classes. He's taking showers. He's, you know, going to the gym and all this stuff. He's doing what he could do. He's doing what he had access to the fullest extent. That's all I needed to see. And then bam, 6 to 8 months later, he was doing shit I wanted to do.
Yeah.
He was teaching in Kung Fu in a beautiful temple in Pai, Thailand, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's like that's the kind of shit that like I love hearing, you know, when I travel and like people tell me their stories. It like encourages me to see the world in a different like light. And then when I now call home and tell the motherfucker, hey, Reddit, look, this guy made that shit happen, you know?
yeah.
And they're like, they give me these excuses. They give me, and I think that's the reason why, like, sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, damn, Daniel, you're doing a lot, but you're not doing anything at all. And I'm like, most of the things I do was to prove a point, you know? Music, honestly, like, for music, I think it was me, my brother, and some friends that was like, I'm tired of the music on the radio. It's the same shit over and over and over and over. And we were like, you know, we're gonna make music on our. And this was me joking. It's like on my in the podcast, on my first podcast.
Yeah.
We made a mixtape. I think it's like an hour long. We're in the car. We just put the beats played on the car speaker and we just freestyle it, press record and just freestyle it, talking about everybody. And we made an album. You know? Then before I came to Japan, I met some guys. And the guy's like, oh, I went to music school, you know, I've done all this. Oh, damn, you know. You went to music school. You worked with Dr. Dre. You worked with all these people. God damn, you should be in the busy. I'm like, nah, I'm broke, man. I'm like, man, you know, broke and broken is two different things.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to be broken if you're broke, but you're broken, cuz you can still make music. If you've learned all this shit, put it online. You know. And at the time, I think I made like $5 from my music, you know?
Yeah.
And I think because they had like a bonus if you released an album in that month or something, they gave you like a $5 bonus. And I'm like, look, man, you could have like, I know people that if they know that all it takes is to press record on your phone and press send, if they have this information, they're gonna make a fucking banger of an album with nothing but their cell phones and an app that they're pressing to make the beats.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've seen cats that like do this shit.
Fear not the weapon, but the one that uses it.
The one that uses it, you know? And when I hear motherfuckers say like, I can't do this. I can't do this. In the beginning, I used to like, that is an excuse. That is an excuse. That is an excuse. Then a friend taught me something. A friend of my old roommate, she said, it's not an excuse. The excuse is because you have overcome that problem. You know, you hear it as an excuse because you've overcome it. They're giving you that excuse because they are communicating something to you. They're trying to tell you something, but you're not listening. You know, and that took me to heart. That really, really took me to heart because I'm like, fuck you for your excuses. Fuck you for your excuses. Ah! And then I started remembering a time when I made excuses. You know, it was a shock that like, there was a transformative period when I went from making excuses to trying not to make excuses and not making excuses. You know, there was a transformation. It didn't happen overnight. But when I like look at the sequence of how I got that transformation, I just got tired of bullshit. I don't know when it happened, you know, I don't know how it happened. I just got tired of bullshit. In my life, in the world around me, and I needed a change.
Yeah.
The change is not easy because the change yourself feeling the change as you're moving along. Because they're gonna be like, oh, you need to learn video editing, all right, video editing. Oh, you need to learn music editing, okay, music editing. Yo, you need to learn this. There's so many things you got to learn on this path, but that's what makes it interesting. I'm not stagnant. Like there's always something to learn. There's always something, you know, that's there to kick your ass. There's always more than one way for you to fail. And I think that's another thing. People just don't want to fail. Like, what's up with culture and like failure being a bad thing? Like, when did this like change take place?
I don't know if it ever was a change. Maybe that was the way things have always been. But you know, I can always one thing that I always say, women have been the greatest teachers in my life. And interacting with them, like I consider women for the most part smarter than most men. Maybe not in everything, but they seem to be more in tune with just deeper aspects of reality. And in the process of trying to, I don't know, charm them or have more women in my life that I can rely on and all this stuff, and that make me feel like a better person, most people, it's not that they can't get the woman that they want or whatever. They're just afraid of being rejected. And to me, like at this point, I look forward to that. It's actually kind of fun. I like shifted my aspect of how I look at things. I'm like, okay, like this woman wasn't into me at this party because I was acting like this, or because I, went a little too hard on, or I didn't go hard. It's usually because you didn't go hard enough on a subject or something, it's just like, because you backed down, you were intimidated, you were this, you were that. But it's like that reality translates to almost everything. You've heard the term fake it till you make it. Maybe that's that thing of aspect about lying you're talking about, where not all lies are bad, that whole fake it till you make it thing. There's a lot of truth to it, and it could translate to picking up women as easily as getting a job. It's like, listen, on resumes, the dark truth of it all, a lot of people bullshit their resumes. They'll say like, oh, I've been doing this or that this long and all that. If they like your personality, your candidness, your confidence, they'll hire you for the job, and they'll be willing to tolerate the aspects you don't know until you actually know them. It's really just like how the rejection aspect of things is part of it, because if you actually pay attention, you will learn something from it. And you, instead of blaming this person, oh, that bitch was stupid and she didn't really get me, it's like, no, maybe I was stupid and I wasn't smart enough to, or I wasn't thinking on my toes enough, I wasn't sharp enough to actually translate my passion into something that they can vibe with, and and at one point, I'm telling you, at least for me, it becomes fun. It becomes like a game. And that's why they call it the game. It becomes a game, and you can lose a Monopoly or start losing and just toss the board and say fuck it and ruin the time for everyone else that was playing. Which, if you're all shooting the shit with your friends, and you flip the table, sometimes that'll bring joy and everyone will laugh at it. But they're kind of, in the end, they're kind of laughing at you like, oh, dude, he got so invested that he got butthurt, instead of just losing with grace. And then just being like, all right, like playing chess. You're like, okay, I keep going for this strategy against this player. Maybe instead of doing what I know, try something a little different. I don't know where I'm going with it, but it might actually work. It might actually work. And I'm not going to say more often than not it works, but just as often as it doesn't, it'll work. And then you refine your technique a little more. You refine what you know and how how you personally operate. You know, I always kind of say like, or think like, no one can really just, okay, we could talk, instead of women, we could talk about making music on like Ableton. No one can really tell you your best workflow on how to produce. They can only share their workflow, be like, yo, this technique works for most people. Like, yo, organizing your tracks and labeling each track and grouping it in certain ways works for most people. There are those certain people where just like their brain doesn't work like that. They'll just freeform and just throw it on and they'll make a banger, bro. They'll make an absolute banger. It isn't with most people, but you know, it's like I found like by organizing my tracks, by grouping it, it simplifies things. And then if I ever want to collabo with people, they know exactly where all the tracks are named, where they're labeled, and how to organize it. So it's easier to work with people. But no one can really tell you how. And even with Ableton, there's 1,000 different ways to do the same thing. There's it's never ending. If you know, throwing a reverb on this bass sound gets the effect you want, but the other person doesn't get reverb, maybe they'll work with delays better. Maybe they'll work with compression a little better than you do in a different way. Saturations and exactly. So there are 1,000 different ways to do almost everything, you know, and people can, you know, you can talk to people that inspire you and gather what information you can. Like, I have this buddy who is straight up the best musician I know, right? Or at least in the top 2, you know, and his partner would probably be the other best musician I know. Look him up on SoundCloud, Frequent and Hudson Lee, right? Amazing musicians, just amazing. Frequent's played Red Rocks, you know, gets works with Tipper and like all my musical heroes, and I take music lessons from him. He would tell me exactly what he does to make music, and I can only cling to like 5 to 10% of it and translate it to myself, but it's definitely helped me. And the rest, I just kind of have to fill in the blanks. And I've talked to Frequent. I'm like, he talks about like, I was like, yo, bro, like you're just comfortable with, you know, he does online tutorials with people and puts it on YouTube. And I'm just like, yo, you're just comfortable with sharing your secrets or how you do things on YouTube. And he's like, of course. Doesn't mean they could do it like me. They'll never be able to do it like me. You know, they'll be able to do something similar, but it's really just my ear that makes this sound that I choose to arrange it in this way. And he gets joy from just sharing his knowledge because he knows it's never going to be someone, oh, I've saw a Frequent tutorial, now I'll be able to take his job. It's not like that. That doesn't work. You know, you'll be like, oh, he does this in this way. Okay, I can understand this. Maybe I'll watch another guy that does YouTube tutorials that does things in this way. Yeah. And then just kind of synergize it. And you know, people like authenticity. They don't like copy and paste. You know, they like authenticity. Bring your own sound to the table. Yeah. And that's what people are going to cling to. Because if they want Frequent, they're going to listen to Frequent and they're not going to listen to you, you know? You know, shout out infinite love to Frequent and the Upscale label. They make amazing music. Anyone that's checking out, if you're into bass music, they are straight up like the craziest producers I know, and I say that in the best way. So check them out.
How did you get into music? Like,
it's kind of similar to something you mentioned earlier, where it's just like, I would listen to a lot of music, and half of it, 3/4 of it, I'm like, how the fuck did these guys get big? Like, I bet if I put minimal effort into this, I could make better music than they do. And you know, I used to be like, quote unquote, a hater. And I would like listen to these people like, this guy sucks. What are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. Like, for example, an artist that I've never really liked. And in fact, I really actually kind of despised because I lived in Colorado at the time where this artist Bass Nectar was really big. And it was like a cult around them. No one in Colorado listened to any. There was only 2 artist people in Colorado listened to, and I'm not exaggerating. And it was either the Grateful Dead or Bass Nectar. And I thought Bass Nectar's music, specifically his earlier shit, was just absolute garbage. I thought it was absolute garbage. And so I'm like, I can make better stuff. And I started my musical journey, and I realized at the time I couldn't, and I still can't make better stuff, even though I really don't like his music. So, but that humbled me it showed me that if I like, people will still listen to you if people think it's garbage, you know, you could still get a fan. But it made me also like kind of just stop being a hater. I'm like, okay, I may still think this guy's music was garbage, but the reality of it is like, I'm not at a point where I can make music like that. You know, even stuff that might have sounded simple to you aren't. And there is a niche for that kind of music, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Because it got you on the path.
It got, you know, it's a lot of times people will be like, it's the artist that like, they'll think it's the artist that inspire you to make music. You know, I'm the complete opposite. I'm wearing this Noisia shirt right here. They're one of my favorite groups in the world, right? And whenever I listen to their music, I'm actually the opposite of inspired. I'm like, God damn, I will never touch their level. Like, holy shit. But when I listen to people I really don't like, it lights a fire. I'm just like, okay, I could do this. I can do this. I just have to really go in, you know? So it's kind of funny. It's just like, for me, a lot of the times when I'm playing guitar and I'll listen to Dimebag Darrell, I'm like, oh, I'm not, Pantera is the best. Like, I can't do this. But then you might listen to, you know, it's hard for me to think of bands I listen to but don't like these days. But I could be like, you know, listen to, you know, I could listen to like Little Uzi Vert or something. I'm like, I can rap way better than this dude, you know, like this just corny as hell, like, you know, all that. And then you realize like, okay, like maybe I can rap better, but can I like, but he's appealing to a certain demographic that even if I did rap that way, I wouldn't want them as like fans. Like, I don't want that like weird materialistic frat boy Satanist kind of vibe, you know? And so it's just like, maybe he's just better at getting that demographic on lock than I would ever be, because I can't authentically, keyword, make myself sound like that. Yep. I could, as a joke, if I'm recording a joke track with my friends, throw on fucking 10 layers of auto-tune and sing off beat and not even rhyme, but I can't do that authentically, and he can, you know? So it's just like, as I said, there's just 1,000 ways to do things. Just find what's authentic to you, what's simplest to you, what flows. You may be able to achieve relatively the same sound without throwing 10 different effects on that sound, you know? You may be able to do it and you'll guilt trip yourself and like, oh, I didn't throw those 10 effects. There's no way this sound is as good. But if it sounds relatively the same, maybe you just found your own way of doing it, you know?
Yeah.
I used to think like, oh, I'm not classically trained. I can't do this, that. I'm not playing these chords on the piano live as it's happening. And it's like, deadmau5 clicks in all his sounds. He just uses a mouse. Yeah, he just clicks it in. And he's deadmau5. He's one of the greatest producers out there, you know? Like, he just uses his mouse and just clicks it all in. So it's just like, do you think the layman is going to be like, oh, those sounds are clicked in on no. Rather than they're no. When I'm fire spinning, it just like majority of the people are impressed by the fact that you can a guy's playing with fire. Just, you know, it doesn't matter if you're combining the 3-beat into the chain link and this and that. It's just like, they're just like, oh, that guy's playing with fire, rad, dude. That's it. That's it. You know, the complex stuff is really just to prove yourself to other fire spinners, you know?
Yeah.
It's not to prove yourself to the layman.
Because like, you're right on that part. Because once I started making music, I had a great appreciation for like musicians. Even the ones that like suck, I have to give them their respect, because
they're putting it out there.
They're putting
something
it
I wasn't
out
even
there.
doing. They're putting it out.
Yeah.
I respect that in itself. It's just like, you know what? It's shitty, but like, you know what? You have the balls to put it out there. You have the balls to potentially get mocked. Like, that's respect. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I used to be a much bigger hater in terms of like artists I didn't like. I'd make rants about them on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, this guy sucks, and like, oh, this and that. It's like, that doesn't increase your energy. That doesn't increase the people. If it's a funny post, they might chuckle and laugh, but the reality of it is most people will just see you as a bitter person. Yeah. And you deep down, you'll feel as a bitter person. You'll wake up in the morning and just being like, guilt tripping yourself. Oh, I always talk about how this guy sucks. Yeah, I'm not doing anything and all that. It's just like, you know, it's
spiraling and spiraling and spiraling and spiraling.
Yeah. So I got about 10 more minutes to shoot the shit. And then I got a dip. But
all right, so tell the people who you is, cuz.
Yeah. So you can find me on YouTube under Lucid Trips. That's my YouTube channel. It's primarily focused on travel and book reviews. I always tell people that, you know, there's many ways to travel. The most efficient way is to get your passport, get on a plane. But I think books are a great way to travel, and they teach you a lot about the world. And, you know, the third way I'd say is taking a psychedelic. They call it tripping for a reason, you know. I always wanted to be a travel doctor, you know, prescribe people psychedelics and all that, you know. I'm a travel doctor.
Nice.
But I love reading books. I think like in this kind of day and age of constant barraging of sensory experience where it's slowly but surely diminishing all of our attention spans, there's only two ways I've found to effectively combat that and maintain a strong and healthy attention span. And that's being via sitting meditation and reading books. Because reading books, you're not getting that instant gratification of lights flashing at you, constant changing scenes. You have to sit down, you have to focus, and you have to just put in the time to know that it's going to translate to more knowledge. And people will be like, oh, I don't need to read a book. We have documentaries now. And an analogy I always bring is like, what's going to tell you more about the world of Lord of the Rings? Watching the movie or reading the book? You know, you're going to get more from reading the book. It just takes a lot more time and a lot more discipline.
15 minutes a day.
Yeah, exactly. Just put in some time, put in effort, exercise that attention span. It's becoming more and more important. And, you know, like, believe it or not, in the future, attention span is going to be a commodity. It's diminishing in the younger generation, and you're going to be looked at as like some magician or something if you can actually pay attention to something for longer than 10 minutes, you know? So exercise that attention span. I love reading. A lot of books have helped me navigate how to move around the world in ways that you couldn't expect. You know, there's this book, Shantaram. It's about traveling in India. It's based on a true story written by the guy that experienced it, and essentially it's about he was actually on the FBI or the Interpol's like 25 most wanted list, and the book literally starts with him escaping from Australian prison and just flying to India on a fake passport and starting as a tour guide, working his way up to a hash dealer, and then ends up being the right-hand man for one of the top 5 crime families of India. And then it ends with him fighting off Russian helicopters in Afghanistan in the 80s, you know? And that book has helped me. Like, my mom gave it to me before my first solo trip in 2012, and it's like a 900-page book. And she's like,
what was it
my
called?
Mom, Shantaram. And my mom gave it to me. She's Indo-Pakistani. And she goes like, if you really want to know how the Asian mindset works, and it translates to all of Asia, at least Southeast Asia and South Asia. She's like, if you want to know how these people think, read this book. It's going to help you navigate in ways that you can't expect. It's a 900-page book. It's the quickest I've ever read a book. I read it in a week and a half. One of the best books I've ever read. And it really helped me navigate things. So I love sharing these books with people because, like, you know, not too many people read these days. And sometimes I read these books and I just want to talk about it. And sometimes it's just better to shout into a void where maybe someone on YouTube can like look into it and be like, oh yeah, yes, finally this person read it too, blah, blah, blah. So I have my travel channel on YouTube. It's Lucid Trips. My Instagram is Third Eye Fry. It's kind of just where I share personal adventures and, you know, clips from my parties. My arts party collective is Noise Revolt and Momentive DMB. You can find that on Facebook and on Instagram. And those are kind of my mediums for sharing the world. And, you know, shout outs to my partners in crime, Dylan, Youth, and Chief Jesta. All of them make music. All of them are extremely driven people. As I said, like, they inspire me to be better because they're all creative and working on aspects of themselves and the creative world that I myself need that inspiration for. So I recommend checking all of them out. Definitely check out your YouTube channel which the people are watching.
Yes,
you know, they probably are. but you know, it's like, it's this beauty of travel that really kind of got us to link up together. And like, you know, like I consider you my brother, bro. We met like once, and like I know I have more in common with you than most people. And I could talk to you about most things that I wouldn't be able to talk to about most other people. So those are my social medias. That's where you can find me. And just know that, you know, if you take the time to watch my stuff, I love and respect you. And thank you, Daniel, for this opportunity to be on this podcast. And yeah, dude, I literally can't wait for our next adventure. I'm thinking I'm going to go to Asia, probably Thailand, because I always told myself I'd go every year, and I haven't had the chance to really go back for the past 2 years. So I'm thinking I know you have your horror stories in Thailand now. We could talk about the white mosquito and all. We'll talk about that
on the next podcast.
We could talk about that on the next one. But this was actually awesome. Time flew by like that. And I hope all the people listening maybe learned something or at least enjoyed it. You know, thank you.
Anytime, Playboy. Anytime. We'll be on this one. You'll be on the next one. Who do you think I should get next? I'm thinking Jesse.
Honestly, Jesse would be just a great person to have, because Jesse is also my main travel partner. You know, it's one thing that I also like about traveling, for anyone that's listening. It's one thing to travel with someone, but it's another to travel with someone that will be completely independent. They're down to travel with you, but if you're like, yo, man, I want to go this way, I probably want to do it myself, they're not going to get butthurt. They're not going to get offended. They'll be like, all right, for sure, I'm going to go here, and we could potentially meet back here, and we'll all have different stories about what happened. That's what happened with him and how he met you. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to this place. He's like, all right, I'm going to go to Japan now. He ended up linking up with you in Japan. Was like, yo, I got this awesome dude. You guys are going to vibe. Like, definitely have to link up. And then, you know, a couple of years later, we meet up in Japan, you know?
All right, Pippin.
All right, man. This was absolutely wonderful, and look forward to the next conversation and the next time we get to link up. Dude, love you, and we'll link up soon, brother.
All right, bye. Take it easy, Pippin.
Take care. Take care.